Looking about the ruins, Hua Xiangyue knit her brow tightly. She pulled Qin Xiang's closer, for she felt that this place was filled with a terrifying aura. Looking about the ruins, Hua Xiangyue knit her brow tightly. She pulled Qin Xiang's closer, for she felt that this place was filled with a terrifying aura. Where in Hell are we? Hua Xiangyue looked to Qin Xiang. This should be where the most ancient tribe, the human king family, used to live. The entire sacred ancient land may very likely be the birthplace of them. Qin Xiang could also feel an appalling aura in here. The reason Hua Xiangyue never found this place when she came here last time was because this place was hidden by an array. What's more was that this place was in ruin, yet it had been hidden by a strong array for as long as 100,000 years. One could surely reckon that some very impressive thing was here. After having a bad premonition, Qin Xiang immediately activated the Luo Tian door and opened a gate. Hurry up! Pulling up Hua Xiangyue, Qin Xiang hurriedly entered that door. At the same time, they heard an ear-deafening roar coming from behind as they were assailed with a horrifying aura, raising the hair all over their body. A dragon! Long Shui exclaimed. However, from its aura, that dragon doesn't belong to my imperial dragon family. Maybe it's a low-rank dragon who had evolved from a flood dragon. However, it should still be one of most terrifying existence for the mortal world. Much to Qin Xiang's surprise, it turned out to be a dragon. Hearing this, he was immediately filled with an inexplicable excitement, for he was cultivating the Dragon Slayer's divine martial techniques, which were specially created to slay a dragon. He very much wanted to try these Dragon Slayer's technique. However, he couldn't for now, as that dragon was very strong, so strong that it scared Hua Xiangyue to the point that her face had gone pale. I truly didn't expect that there would be a dragon in the mortal world. Fortunately, you, this little rascal, were smart enough to retreat. Hua Xiangyue was still in a state of shock. She was panting for breath. She was a powerful expert in the mortal world, yet facing a horrifying beast like a dragon, she was feeling powerless. Now, Qin Xiang and Hua Xiangyue came to know that the Blood Lightning Mountain Sea was created artificially by someone, all in order to make sure that no one would enter this place. If some powerful array grandmaster entered this place, they just might find the array that was imprisoning that dragon, and maybe, due to their curiosity, they might open the array. At that time, it would be a disaster for the mortal martial world. It seems that the human king family had imprisoned that dragon. That family sure is very powerful, Hua Xiangyue marveled as a sigh leaked from her mouth. Of course, what astounded her the most was the fact that the disc in Qin Xiang's hand could open ASPAC door. That senior did not allow me to divulge anything about me, so I can't tell you anything, maybe in the future, stated Qin Xiang, helpless. Don't sweat it, I am not going to force you to tell me. Can we also leave with this thing? Hua Xiangyue asked. But of course, I can return to the Qinwu mainland with this. If I am strong enough, I can go even cross this world, answered Qin Xiang. He very much wanted to check other worlds out. Hearing that he could travel to the other worlds, even Hua Xiangyue was excited. Traveling to the other world wasn't that simple. Only some powerful array grandmaster could travel to the other world through a huge teleportation array. Also, if one found a rift in SPAC and could resist the wear and tear inside it, one could traverse to another world. But this way, it would be very difficult to return to the original world. Vast as the mortal martial world was, as far as those Taions who had lived for tens of thousands of years, it was very small. Take Hua Xiangyue for instance, she had traveled to many mainlands to find herbs over the years. Is that herb garden also inside an array? Asked Hua Xiangyue. Otherwise, such a huge herb garden in here would have been found by her for sure. Qin Xiang, shaking his head, said, It should be. However, the herb garden is under the ground. When we came in, I am afraid no one would have the expected for the good stuff to be under the ground. Hua Xiangyue gave out a light snort as she said, "Who would have expected, huh?" Very soon, Chen Xiang found a tree with some symbol following the map. Though many years had come and gone, the symbol was still there. Spotting a small li character on the thick trunk, Hua Xiangyue knew that the entrance of that herb garden was inside this tree. This forest was so huge, furthermore, these kind of trees were countless in numbers. Who would notice a character that was just the size of a finger? Li Tianjun was not just a Dan King, he was very impressive when it comes to array and refining equipment as well. If he wanted to make this kind of stuff, it would be a piece of cake for him. Chen Xiang had a refining weapons scroll. Since he had gotten the memories of 4 array grandmasters, he had come to realize how impressive those complex spirit patterns inside it are and why Lu Menger was so fascinated by them. All in all, those spirit patterns were terrific and very esoteric. Chen Xiang, with his finger, pushed the li character, and it was pushed in very easily. Without the map or the instruction, no one would know that there was a mechanism in here. Just as the finger was pushed in, a glowing white door appeared on the trunk of that tree. Seeing this, Hua Xiangyue was excited. She reckoned that the herb garden had many rare and precious herbs. "Let's go in." Chen Xiang, pulling Hua Xiangyue's hands, went in. As soon as they stepped into the door, the gate closed and immediately disappeared. And when they got inside, Chen Xiang's and Hua Xiangyue's eyes were dazzled with bright light as they caught sight of a spiral staircase heading down. The staircase led very deep under the ground. At the end of the staircase, Chen Xiang and Hua Xiangyue saw a stone door. When they opened the door, a very long sage was presented before them, and the rocks on either side of sage lit up with white light automatically. What a great place! Chen Xiang took a deep breath, for the spirit qi here was extremely rich. I think that the soil of the herb garden had already transformed into spirit soil. This soil is best for planting spirit herbs, stated Hua Xiangyue. At this moment, Chen Xiang and Hua Xiangyue were extremely excited. Both of them were alchemists. Those rare and precious herbs were extremely tempting to them. After all, those were the herbs left behind by a Dan King, they sure weren't going to be ordinary. Moreover, Dan King Li Tianjun had entered the first mysterious realm once, which had countless precious herbs. He must have had obtained a lot of them. As Chen Xiang and Hua Xiangyue arrived at the end, an iron gate with a keyhole entered their sight. Seeing this, just as Hua Xiangyue wanted to blast the door open with her palm, Chen Xiang hurriedly stopped her as he said, smiling, "I have the key here." The key was universal, it could open all the doors of herb gardens left behind by Li Tianjun. Once Chen Xiang pushed in the key and gave it a twist, the iron gate opened on its own. Chen Xiang's and Hua Xiangyue's nerves stretched thin. They held their breath as they watched the iron gate open slowly. But as soon as the dense spirit qi blew on their faces, they became extremely excited, especially when the rich fragrance of spirit GRAS and flowers AS sailed their noses. Once the gate opened, Chen Xiang and Hua Xiangyue could see the beautiful herb garden clearly. There were many flowers and trees inside. Just with one glance, they recognized some extremely rare spirit herbs. But just as they went in, they saw an elder looking at them with a jovial smile on his face. Much to their shock and horror, someone was actually inside. Apparently, the old man appeared to have already foreseen Chen Xiang and Hua Xiangyue's arrival. Therefore, he wasn't taken by surprise a bit. Chen Xiang and Hua Xiangyue, on the other hand, could not comprehend as to why there was someone here, in this enclosed space for many years. Apparently, the old man appeared to have already foreseen Chen Xiang and Hua Xiangyue's arrival. Therefore, he wasn't taken by surprise a bit. Chen Xiang and Hua Xiangyue, on the other hand, could not comprehend as to why there was someone here, in this enclosed space for many years. At first, Hua Xiangyue thought that this old man was the Dan King Li Tianjun. However, Chen Xiang knew the Li Tianjun had already gone to the heavenly realm. Even Wu Canghong knew him. "Who are you?" asked Chen Xiang, vigilance clearly written on his face. He and Hua Xiangyue just couldn't see through this old man's strength. The elderly was wearing an old and worn dress. Nonetheless, he was dressed very neatly. Also, there was an amiable smile on his face as he replied, "I am someone who has been waiting for you." Only at this time did Chen Xiang and Hua Xiangyue came to notice that the place which was full of spirit herbs was protected by an array, and a very powerful one at that. Deep as the herb garden under the earth was, this place was just like a mysterious realm. One could see the blue sky. "Why have you been waiting for us here?" asked Chen Xiang once more. "Since the time this herb garden was built, I have been waiting for you." "Right, this herb garden was built by my teacher. I have been looking after it for a very long time. I have already forgotten as to how many years had Pa said the old man, a smile still on his face. Chen Xiang and Hua Xiangyue were shocked, once more. To their surprise, this old man was Dan King Li Tianjuan's apprentice. "No need to worry, you can get these herbs, however, you have to pass the test," the old man stated. Chen Xiang and Hua Xiangyue glanced at each other momentarily before Chen Xiang asked, "What test?" Noticing that Chen Xiang and Hua Xiangyue were tightly holding each other's hand, the old man asked doubtfully, "Are you husband and wife? Or brother and sisters? The gap between your strength is too big. Only if the man is stronger than the woman, it's justifiable." Chen Xiang cracked a smile and said, "That's right, we are husband and wife. Hey kid, don't lie to me. Although I may not have exited this place for many years, the outside world should not have gone through such tremendous changes." That old man shook his head, smiling. Hua Xiangyue rolled her eyes at Chen Xiang as she let go of Chen Xiang's hand and said, "He and I are just friends. What's the test exactly? If it's dangerous, we won't do it." "It's not dangerous. All you have to do is compete with me in alchemy. You can use the spirit herbs in this herb garden for the compet. One Tian. Furthermore, you have to refine the Dan which I tell you to. Only when you have said my test will you have the qualifications to have this herb garden. This isn't too much, right?" the old man said, looking at Hua Xiangyue. He was secretly astounded by the fire energy emanating from Hua Xiangyue's body. He could see that Hua Xiangyue was a very powerful flame expert. Furthermore, she was extremely powerful. Evidently, she was a high-level alchemist. As for Chen Xiang, he was completely disregarded by the elder. This put Chen Xiang ill at ease. "No problem. However, your rules can't be too harsh. You can't ask me to refine an immortal Dan, okay?" said Hua Xiangyue. The elderly nodded his acknowledgement and asked, "What the highest level of Dan you can refine?" "Middle grade heaven level Dan," Hua Xiangyue said dismissively. But this shocked the Hel out of Chen Xiang and that elderly. From the beginning, Chen Xiang believed that Hua Xiangyue's limit should be a low-grade heaven-level Dan, because the one who could refine a middle-grade heaven-level Dan was a Dan ancestor. Just one level above the Dan ancestor was Dan King, and that was the limit of the mortal world alchemist. Although there was only a gap of one level between Dan King and Dan ancestor, it was rarely used in the mortal world. Even if one could refine high-grade heaven-level Dan, one would still be referred to as Dan ancestor. More importantly, Hua Xiangyue was a female, a young, beautiful, and very powerful female. She had very bright prospects. "Very good. I will lay down the rules to you, and then I will compete with you." At this moment, the old man was extremely excited. Back then, his teacher had asked him to remain here and he had given his promise. However, having been stayed here alone for many years, he was bored to death. It was rare for someone to come here. The old man had been delving in alchemy all day. And now that he had met a strong opponent, of course, he would want to test himself against Hua Xiangyue. "Senior, are you Dan King Li Tianjuan's apprentice?" Can I please have your good name? Asked Chen Xiang. He also wanted to compete with this old man. It was impossible for him to play with high-level Dan, but if it was a profound-level Dan, he was very confident. After all, he was labeled as the top youngest alchemist of the mortal martial world. The old man nodded as he answered, I was adopted by my teacher, so I have my teacher's surname. My name is Li Baojun, what about yours? Chen Xiang. Hua Xiangyue. Li Baojun continued, Don't worry, I won't ask you to compete with me in refining heaven-level Dan. Refining that kind of Dan depends a lot on luck. Furthermore, we can't see your level using that kind of compet. 1 Tian. What's more, it needs a lot of time and wastes far too many herbs. Seniorly, I don't want to say this, but that map was found by me. I think both of us should be tested. I have also learned alchemy for 10 years, stated Chen Xiang. Li Baojun simply had not expected Chen Xiang, this little rascal, to compete in alchemy. He could see that Chen Xiang was very young, and very weak as well. According to his estimation, Chen Xiang should be 30 to 40 years old, and definitely nowhere good in alchemy. Hua Xiangyue had discovered that Li Baojun was underestimating Chen Xiang and was also secretly dissatisfied with him. She very much admired Chen Xiang's alchemy. If it was a compet 1 Tian of refining low-level Dan, she would candidly admit defeat. Indeed, it was him who brought me with him. If we got this herb garden, whether he shares with me or not completely depends on his mood. Hua Xiangyue said, a smile on her lips. Li Baojun furrowed his white brows. He felt that this world has changed too much. To his surprise, an ant-like kid could order a woman who was extremely good, strength-wise and alchemy-wise, both. Furthermore, this woman was still as beautiful as a flower, as heavenly as a fairy. He could not help but think that there was something wrong with Hua Xiangyue's head. Nonetheless, Li Baojun was a principled man. The herb garden had to be handed out, but only those who could pass the test would have the qualifications to have this herb garden. Very well, I am a bit reluctant, but I will allow you two to compete with me. I alone will compete with you too. If you can't defeat me, you don't deserve to have this herb garden, said Li Baojun. There were many spirit herbs in the herb garden. The highest ranked were high-grade earth-level herbs, and the lowest level of herbs were still for refining true elemental Dan, white jade Dan, and other similar Dan. Furthermore, there were also herbs for refining building foundation Dan, 5 elements true elemental Dan, life elemental Dan, and many other low-grade profound-level Dan. There were also some herbs for middle-grade and high-grade profound-level Dan, but not much. Don't worry, the compet 1 Tian will be very fair. If you won 2 out of 3 games, then victory will be yours. The side which won 2 rounds first would be the winner. Kid, what is the highest level of Dan you can refine? Li Baojun asked. Chen Xiang replied, low-grade profound level. Li Baojun was stupefied. From the beginning, he believed that what Chen Xiang could refine at most was high-grade spirit-level Dan. But he didn't expect him to enter this level at his age. Of course, it was not that such people didn't exist, it was just that they were very rare. In this huge mortal martial world, there weren't many people who could refine low-grade profound-level Dan at Chen Xiang's age. Wait, I just thought of a better way to compete. It will guarantee the fairness, and at the same time, it will allow us to display our alchemy level, stated Li Baojun. There was an arbor inside the herb garden. Chen Xiang and Hua Xiangyue were sitting here. They were drinking a sweet and fragrance tea as they wait for Li Baojun to come up with the method for competing. There was an arbor inside the herb garden. Chen Xiang and Hua Xiangyue were sitting here. They were drinking a sweet and fragrance tea as they wait for Li Baojun to come up with the method for competing. Chen Xiang was caressing Hua Xiangyue's straight and long hair, yet Hua Xiangyue didn't object. She only used her charming eyes to look at him. In her eyes, Chen Xiang was like a kid, but sometimes, he was very manly as well. Little rascal, after I return, I will be going into a closed-door training for some time. If you are troubled with something in the future, you should go and look for Menger," said Hua Xiangyue. As Chen Xiang wanted to give Hua Xiangyue a few sets of Resurrection Dan herbs and a fruit of fortune, he asked, "How long are you going to train in seclusion? What should I do if I come across a serious matter and wanted to look for you?" "Go straight to Danxiang Taoyuan and look for me in the restricted area directly. Only those who have my permission can enter it." Hua Xiangyue took out a white pearl and handed it to Chen Xiang. "When you reach there, take this pearl out and you will be able to enter safely. Also, after coming in, please don't yell. I will know when someone comes in immediately," Hua Xiangyue continued. Chen Xiang nodded as he took that pearl and started playing with it. "Seniorly, as the protector of this herb garden, you must have gotten many spirit herbs, right?" Chen Xiang shouted towards a nearby pond, where Li Baojun was sitting, ruminating. Li Baojun answered, "Of course, I am familiar with many herbs. But I can only pick herbs after I have planted them first. However, most of these are low-level spirit herbs." "Kid, stop bothering me. Just adjust your state while you still have the time." Chen Xiang pursed his lips and continued to play with Hua Xiangyue's silky black hair, for there was a sweet aroma coming from them. "Sister Xiangyue, why do you smell so nice? Is it natural?" Chen Xiang broke into laughter and continued, "Your blood also smelled very sweet." Hua Xiangyue gave a twist to Chen Xiang's arm. "Don't mention that matter again." Recalling the shameful scene of Chen Xiang lying on her chest, sucking her blood, her cheeks turned charming red as she looked at the mischievously smiling Chen Xiang. "You truly smell so good. If I sleep while hugging you, I will get a sound sleep for good." While Chen Xiang was making blind and disorderly conjectures, he got a knock on his head by Hua Xiangyue, once again. Li Baojun didn't look over. However, with both of them flirting around him, he was simply unable to calm himself down. What he found it incomprehensible was as to why a beautiful and charming girl like Hua Xiangyue was with a little rascal like Chen Xiang. "Quiet down a bit, will you?" said Li Baojun. "Thinking of just one method for so long, how boring!" Chen Xiang blurted out in a low voice. And this made Li Baojun feel disgusted by Chen Xiang secretly. He decided that he would not show mercy and teach Chen Xiang, this little rascal, a ruthless lesson. When Chen Xiang and Hua Xiangyue had waited for 2 or some hours, Li Baojun shouted aloud, "I have finished thinking, come here." When Chen Xiang and Hua Xiangyue had come over, Li Baojun continued, "Brat, since all you could refine is low-grade profound-level dawn, I had to use every cell of my brain. I have only come up with 2 methods. If after these 2 rounds there is still a need for the 3rd round, I will think of something again." Chen Xiang said in contempt, "After thinking for so long, you can only come up with 2 games? It's best 2 out of 3 games. If I won 2 games in a row, then I will win. I won't have to come up with the 3rd game," said Li Baojun. "You are really good." Chen Xiang was rendered speechless. Li Baojun continued, "The concept of the game is not complicated, it's very simple. The first round consists of refining a low-grade profound-level Dan. We will see whose speed of refining and grade of Dan refined is better. This will show us the alchemy level of an alchemist for a Dan. We will compete in refining the 5 elements true elemental Dan. I have a lot of its herbs here. Furthermore, it is comparatively difficult to refine Dan among the low-grade profound-level Dawn. However, this is disadvantageous to you because I am a high-level alchemist. Therefore, it would be better for this girl to compete with me. Anyway, it's for you to decide." Li Baojun believed that competing with Chen Xiang would be an utmost insult to him. Noticing the disdainful look in Li Baojun's eyes, Chen Xiang secretly swore that he would definitely beat this old man, who doesn't know how high the sky is and how deep the earth goes to the ground. "I have 40 set of 5-element true elemental Dan's herbs here, all of which will be placed here. The first round will continue until all the herbs are completely refined. We will use the 40 set of herbs at the same time. That is to say, if you are slower than me, then you will definitely get fewer herbs than me. In other words, if I am faster than you, I can refine 30 sets, 35 sets, explained Li Baojun. Upon hearing this, Chen Xiang and Hua Xiangyue were secretly laughing in their heart. As soon as they heard the rules of the first round, they knew their victory was set in stone. At the same time, they also came to despise Li Baojun. If it had been a compet, 1. tie-in between alchemists of the same level, it sure would have been extremely fair. However, when it was a compet, 1. tie-in between a high-level alchemist and a low-level alchemist, the high-level alchemist had a huge advantage, for he was faster, and as such, he would be able to refine far more than the low-level alchemist. Of course, Chen Xiang and Hua Xiangyue understood very clearly that Li Baojun was doing this so that he could compete with Hua Xiangyue. "Do you any problem with this?" asked Li Baojun. "Not at all," Chen Xiang and Hua Xiangyue answered at the same time. If they had a problem, it would be even stranger. Had it been other low-level alchemist, he would lose for sure. However, Chen Xiang was different. Even Hua Xiangyue believed that she herself wasn't Chen Xiang's match. "What about the second round?" asked Hua Xiangyue. "In the second round, we will refine 3 common low-grade profound-level dawn. And we will judge from a comprehensive perspective, for instance, the grade of dawn, the speed of refining, the number of dawn refined. We, alchemists, can judge these points ourselves. At that time, we ourselves will know who is the winner and who is the loser," Li Baojun said. "Do you have any problem with this?" Chen Xiang and Hua Xiangyue shook their heads. In their heart, they were having a good laugh, because Chen Xiang had a fair good chance of winning the 2 rounds. "Old man, you lose," said Chen Xiang in his heart. Li Baojun immediately took out the 40 sets of 5 elements true elemental dan herbs and placed them in a single basket. They were all placed randomly. If one wanted to take the herbs, he would have to pick them himself. More importantly, there were many herbs of poor quality as well. Now we will pick a set from them and then begin refining at the same time. "So, have you decided who is going to compete with me?" Li Baojun asked. "I will," said Chen Xiang. Hearing this, Li Baojun's brow was lined with deep frowns. He looked at Hua Xiangyue, only to see no objection coming from Hua Xiangyue, none at all. "Sigh, it isn't good for the younglings to be too compet. 1 tive." Li Baojun shook his head as he said, disappointed. Chen Xiang very much wanted to say, "It isn't good for the oldies to despise everyone." Very soon, Li Baojun and Chen Xiang began to pick herbs from the basket. First, they both were picking all the good herbs. If they could refine faster, they could choose the better ones, leaving the bad herbs for the slower one. After having picked their herbs, both of them began checking the alchemical furnace of the other. "We can start now. Kid, you better give your best," Li Baojun said, smiling disdainfully. He looked down on Chen Xiang very much. Nonetheless, Chen Xiang didn't take it seriously and began organizing the herbs. Hua Xiangyue was very confident about Chen Xiang. She had watched Chen Xiang in many alchemy tie-ins, and every time he would achieve the best result. Hua Xiangyue was very confident about Chen Xiang. She had watched Chen Xiang in many alchemy tie-ins, and every time he would achieve the best result. What Hua Xiangyue was more curious about was that alchemical furnace of Chen Xiang's that looked as if it was carved out of ruby. She used to believe that reason that Chen Xiang's alchemy skills were so brilliant was due to that alchemical furnace. But after she saw Chen Xiang refine dawn in the air, she no longer believed as such. However, she still felt that there was something about that alchemical furnace. When processing the herbs, Chen Xiang and Li Baojun's speed was almost the same. Just this point extremely surprised Li Baojun. Nonetheless, he still didn't believe that Chen Xiang could defeat him. Having placed their herbs in their respective furnaces at the same time, Chen Xiang and Li Baojun seriously started refining dawn. And in the next moment, Chen Xiang activated the time array inside the brilliant flame dragon furnace, accelerating the flow of time inside. In this way, the flow of time inside the brilliant flame dragon furnace was different than the flow of time outside. The difference of flow of time between inside and outside was 10:1. Even without the brilliant flame dragon furnace, if Chen Xiang had just used the illusionary brilliant furnace, his speed of refining would still be far from the normal by just relying on the heavenly sunfire as well as his alchemy talent. Right now, his divine sense inside the alchemical furnace felt as if a long time had said, but outside, just a very short time had elapsed. In the next moment, Chen Xiang opened the lid of the alchemical furnace and took out 10 pieces of 5 elements true elemental dawn. At the sight of this, Li Baojun's pair of old eyes were almost about to fall out, for both of them had started not too long ago, and in the meantime, Chen Xiang had already refined a set of dawn, just in this short period of time. This kind of speed was unbelievable. Hua Xiangyue too was horrified by that kind of heaven-defying speed. Bang! Fled bang rang out from Li Baojun's alchemical furnace. As everything happened before everyone's eyes, he was so ashamed that his old face turned very red, for he was shocked by the unreasonable speed shown by Chen Xiang. Impossible! Li Baojun shouted. He hastily ran over and checked the jade box next to Chen Xiang's alchemical furnace. As he inspected the 10 elements true elemental dawn carefully, a look of disbelief showed up on his face. Chen Xiang's quality and Tai were both very good. However, the most shocking was still his speed. Chen Xiang, on the other hand, didn't pay any attention to Li Baojun and started choosing the herbs from that basket. Can you be a little serious? Chen Xiang said to Li Baojun. Hearing this, Li Baojun felt as if he had been lashed by a whip. Only now did he came to realize Chen Xiang wasn't an ordinary little rascal. Li Baojun took a few deep breaths to calm himself down, otherwise, he would lose the first round, which for him would be a galling shame and humiliation. He was someone who could refine heaven-level dawn, and he was actually defeated by a little rascal who could only refine low-grade profound-level dawn? If this news spread, how was he going to face anyone? Having relied on the time acceleration of the brilliant flame dragon furnace, Chen Xiang's speed of alchemy had reached a very frightening degree. However, this was because he was going all out, not to mention that he was in the extreme state now, and as such, the heavenly sunfire in his body had reached a new level. That's strange, my flames are a lot stronger. In these 10 days, they have become stronger. Could it be because of Hua Xiangyue's blood? When Chen Xiang was refining just a moment ago, he felt that there was something wrong with his flames. Although it was a good news, he could not understand why. If that's the case, then Hua Xiangyue definitely has a fire spirit. The fire spirit is fused with the flesh and blood of its possessor. You have sucked so much of her blood, therefore, a lot of her fire spirit's energy was sucked into your body and subsequently fused with your heavenly sun fire spirit, explained Su Meiyao. Previously, Chen Xiang and Wu Qianqian had given it a try, and to their surprise, their 2 fire spirits could be fused. Moreover, they became stronger. At this time, Li Baojun's heart was in turmoil because whenever he recalled Chen Xiang's refining speed, he wasn't able to refine dawn with a calm heart. He had personally checked Chen Xiang's dawn. They were indeed 5 elements true elemental dawn, out and out. And whether it was their quality or they were of the best kind. From a comprehensive perspective, Chen Xiang had already reached the peak in refining profound-level dawn. In this regard, he was indeed not a match of Chen Xiang. Very soon, Chen Xiang had refined another set of dawn. As for Li Baojun, not only had he not refined one set, he had blasted his furnace once. This was a pretty big blow for Li Baojun. Even so, at the end of the day, Li Baojun was an old man who had lived for many years. Very soon, he calmed himself down and had finished refining one set of herbs. However, he was only able to refine 8 5 elements true elemental dawn, whereas Chen Xiang was able to refine 10 from one set of herb. Many years as Li Baojun had been guarding this place, there was still a limit on how many 5 elements true elemental dan herbs he could get. And from the beginning, he was a high-level alchemist. Naturally, he won't go and refine these kinds of low-level herbs. In contrast, Chen Xiang was someone who had planted many 5 elements true elemental dan herbs and refined the 5 elements true elemental dawn many times just to speed up his cultivation. Therefore, Chen Xiang was very familiar with refining this dan. In this regard, he had a pretty big advantage. Half an hour later, Chen Xiang had already refined 8 sets of 5 elements true elemental dawn, whereas Li Baojun was only able to refine 2 sets. However, Li Baojun maintained a level head. He wasn't disturbed by this. Hua Xiangyue, who was watching from the sideline, was secretly enjoying after watching Chen Xiang leading by so much because, in the beginning, Li Baojun was underestimating Chen Xiang too much. And now that Chen Xiang was leading by so big of a difference, she was sure that Li Baojun was ill at ease in his heart. If it was her, maybe she won't be able to win so easily like Chen Xiang. Time went by just like that. Chen Xiang was completely immersed in refining dawn. He simply didn't notice the flow of time. Taking out the 5 elements true elemental dawn set after set, he too was delighted. Tedious as the alchemy was, he always felt happy when he took out the dawn. 28 sets. That was the number of sets Chen Xiang was able to refine. Watching the 285 elements true elemental dan jam-packing that jade box, Chen Xiang was filled with pleasure. Whereas Li Baojun was only able to refine 12 sets, out of which 1 set of herbs had exploded. Altogether he had refined 88 dawn. His quant. 1 tai was far less than that of Chen Xiang's. Therefore, he had completely lost in all aspects. Hey, if you have given me your herbs, I would have been able to refine a dozen or so dawn extra. Now, it should be pretty obvious who is the winner and who is the loser, right? Said Chen Xiang, laughing pridefully. Hearing this, Li Baojun's old face turned red. Earlier, he was completely confident in his win. He believed he could make Chen Xiang lose in a very ugly manner. However, who would have known that he would lose to the point that he didn't have any face left? There are still 2 rounds left. I was negligent this time. Moreover, I had also underestimated you. Next game, I will definitely win, proclaimed Li Baojun. He regained his confidence. He felt that as a high-level alchemist, he should not get discouraged by such a small setback. Chen Xiang only smiled. Are you going to give me these dawn? At the end, if you are the winner, I will give all of them to you. Li Baojun did not care about these low-level dawn. For him, they were completely useless. In the next round, they were going to compete in refining 3 most commonly used low-grade profound-level dawn. Chen Xiang was worried that Li Baojun would ask him to refine some unconventional dawn which he hadn't refined yet. However, he was still unafraid. He had the refining simulation technique. Moreover, he had already mastered the technique to refine low-grade profound-level dawn. Even if he hadn't refined those dawn before, he could easily handle them. Li Baojun said that the next round would only begin after an hour break. He did this because he wanted to take a breath of respite. He wanted to calm his heart down. Now, he was on guard against all possible scenarios. Having watched Chen Xiang refine 5 elements true elemental dawn so easily and so quickly, moreover, 2 extra dawn than him, Li Baojun no longer had that easygoing attitude that he had a moment ago. From the performance of Chen Xiang, it was quite evident that Chen Xiang's alchemy foundation was quite solid. Li Baojun said that the next round would only begin after an hour break. He did this because he wanted to take a breath of respite. He wanted to calm his heart down. Now, he was on guard against all possible scenarios. Having watched Chen Xiang refine 5 elements true elemental dawn so easily and so quickly, moreover, 2 extra dawn than him, Li Baojun no longer had that easygoing attitude that he had a moment ago. From the performance of Chen Xiang, it was quite evident that Chen Xiang's alchemy foundation was quite solid. Li Baojun believed that even his master, Dan King Li Tianjun, won't be a match of Chen Xiang in refining 5 elements true elemental dawn. Chen Xiang may have been refining just low-grade profound level dawn. Once Chen Xiang could refine high-level dawn, he would surely show the same results as he had shown now, high quality, better quant. 1. Tai as well as an Astonies. HI plus ing speed. This could only be done if one had a very solid foundation. As many geniuses as he had seen, it was still the first time he had seen a genius like Chen Xiang, who so steady and without pride and arrogance. If someday Chen Xiang ever reached the level of Dan King, he sure would be a very powerful figure. Next, we are going to be refining 3 very useful low-grade profound level dawn. Of course, this is only true for low-level martial artists like yourself. Li Baojun still believed Chen Xiang was just a true martial realm martial artist. Chen Xiang cracked a smile as he said, "Low-grade profound level dawn are not very useful to me. I need middle-grade or perhaps high-grade profound level dawn." Li Baojun was momentarily taken by surprise. He could not help but ask, "What is your cultivation level?" "I have just advanced to extreme state, the early stage of spirit martial realm," answered Chen Xiang. Li Baojun gulped nervously. He very much wanted to ask Chen Xiang's age, but he still didn't ask. He was worried that he would receive another blow. Just his high alchemy skills and his extraordinary strength had given him a considerable scare. The 3 dawn are 5 elements true elemental Dan, building foundation Dan, and baptizing bone Dan. "Do you any objection?" Li Baojun asked. "Is baptizing bone Dan very common?" Chen Xiang now had a difficult time in finding the herbs of baptizing bone Dan. This kind of Dan could strengthen a martial artist's physique. It was greatly useful but very uncommon. It was very common a long time ago, however. Over these 10,000 years, it has become very rare, said Hua Xiangyue. Chen Xiang nodded his acknowledgement. "I don't have any problem. When do we start?" He was very familiar with the building foundation Dan and 5 elements true elemental Dan. As for baptizing marrow Dan, he had never refined it. The baptizing marrow Dan was not as difficult to refine as 5 elements true elemental Dan. However, from the books, Chen Xiang knew that it still had a certain difficulty. Now, he could only employ the refining simulation technique and give it a try. He felt that this was also a method and opportunity to improve his refining simulation technique. Li Baojun gave Chen Xiang 3 jade boxes, each carrying 3 sets of herbs respectively, out of which 2 he was very familiar with, which were the herbs for refining building foundation Dan and 5 elements true elemental Dan. The 3rd set he had never seen. Apart from some ginseng, fleeceflower root and lingzhi, which were auxiliary herbs, there were 3 black ingredients that appeared to be some kind of fruit. They were very hard. When he picked them up to feel, they felt like iron BALS. Judging from Chen Xiang's expression, Hua Xiangyue realized that Chen Xiang would be refining this baptizing bone Dan for the first time. Previously, Chen Xiang had asked her help to gather the baptizing bone Dan herbs. However, she never found them. "Have you never refined the baptizing bone Dan?" Li Baojun had also come to notice this, because Chen Xiang had a curious look on his face when looking at those 3 iron ball-like fruit. Chen Xiang nodded his affirmation. "This should be the main herbs of baptizing bone Dan, the iron heart fruit. I heard that it is harder than iron and also very difficult to refine." Li Baojun blurted out, taken aback. "You have never refined it?" Then, why did you say you have no problem a moment ago? This is surely disadvantageous for you. Qin Xiang smiled. Might as well. I just wanted to try it out. Because this herb of baptizing Bondan is rarely found, surely I would want to try refining it regardless of anything. Qin Xiang was speaking the truth. So long as he saw some rare herbs, he could not wait to refine them. Li Baojun was completely shocked. He could not help but look at Qin Xiang with horror. For him to say so when he had never refined that Dan, there was only one possibility, and that was that Qin Xiang knew that skill which all high-level alchemists needed to master, the refining simulation technique. In Li Baojun's cognition, only when someone was beginning to learn refining high-grade profound-level Dan or low-grade earth-level Dan, he or she would learn that D.A.M. N refining simulation technique. That technique was very taxing to the mind. It was an alchemy technique during which its user had to use every cell of his brain. If an alchemist could not learn this technique, he or she would never become a high-level alchemist. And now, Qin Xiang could only refine low-grade profound-level Dan, yet he had mastered such a high-rank alchemy technique. He could very well be called as a genius among geniuses. Li Baojun took a few deep breaths before coming over to Qin Xiang and asked him in a serious manner, "Do you know the refining simulation technique?" Qin Xiang answered, "When I was refining the 5 elements true elemental Dan for the first time, I had used the refining simulation technique. Furthermore, the conditions at that time were very poor as well. At that time, Qin Xiang didn't have an alchemical furnace. He was using his spiritual energy to create a transparent alchemical furnace. Suffice to say, the difficulty had reached a whole new level. But also because of this, he was able to master the basics of refining simulation technique. The credit must also go to Hua Xiangyue. Therefore, Qin Xiang was very grateful to her. "Who is your master?" Li Baojun asked subconsciously. Then, he turned his gaze to Hua Xiangyue. If Qin Xiang could have such a solid foundation at his age, then, his master should surely be an extraordinary figure. "I have been taught by 3 people, one is her, other is an elder of my extreme martial sect, and the last one is a senior, I can't say her name," Qin Xiang reported truthfully. When he was in Extreme Dan King Courtyard, Elder Dan had also instructed him in alchemy. At that time, he had benefited a lot from her. Whereas Hua Xiangyue had created a huge hurdle before Qin Xiang during the alchemy compet. 1. Tian of Danxiang Taoyuan, forcing Qin Xiang to break through his bottleneck and master the refining simulation technique and illusionary brilliant furnace. Li Baojun sighed deeply. There was an incomparably solemn expression on his face. Only now did he came to realize that the guy he was despising all this time was not some ordinary character. He believed that if Qin Xiang could reach his level, he would definitely achieve far more than he had. The curtain on the second round soon opened. Li Baojun took this round very seriously because if he lost this round, he won't have any opportunities to turn the tables. He was an old and honorable alchemist. He was not too far away from becoming a Dan ancestor. But if he lost to this little rascal, he would have lived in vain all this time. Qin Xiang and Li Baojun began processing the herbs. Li Baojun was the first to process the herbs. He was refining the 5 elements true elemental Dan first. What Li Baojun could not comprehend was as to why Qin Xiang was processing 2 distinct sets of herbs, one for 5 elements true elemental Dan and one for building foundation Dan. However, seeing this, a smile crossed Hua Xiangyue's face. She knew what Qin Xiang was planning to do. Since Qin Xiang had never refined baptizing bone Dan, he needed a lot of time to carry out the refining simulation technique, and also, he would need to slow down his speed. Therefore, in order to save some time, he could only refine building foundation Dan and 5 elements true elemental Dan simultaneously. Hua Xiangyue was sure that she soon would be able to watch Qin Xiang refine 2 sets of Dan simultaneously. No matter how many times she had watched it, it was still as shocking as before. Since then, she had secretly tried it herself. Although she was successful, she was far from Chen Xiang's level. While refining the Dan, Li Baojun was also keeping an eye on Chen Xiang's movements. He wanted to see how Chen Xiang would refine dawn. While refining the Dan, Li Baojun was also keeping an eye on Chen Xiang's movements. He wanted to see how Chen Xiang would refine dawn. Having processed the herbs of building foundation Dan and the 5 elements true elemental Dan, Chen Xiang placed the 5 elements true elemental Dan herbs inside the brilliant flame dragon furnace. As the 5 elements true elemental Dan was a bit harder to refine as compared to the building foundation Dan, using the brilliant flame dragon furnace was more appropriate. Noticing Chen Xiang placing only one hand inside the alchemical furnace to pour in the flames, Li Baojun found it a bit strange. But when he saw Chen Xiang pick up the building foundation Dan herbs, he was even more astounded. What does he want to do? Wondered Li Baojun in his heart. Releasing his spiritual energy, Chen Xiang created a transparent alchemical furnace, the illusionary brilliant furnace. An alchemical furnace that was completely invisible to the naked eye. When Chen Xiang placed the building foundation Dan herbs inside the illusionary brilliant furnace, Li Baojun was so shocked that he almost blasted his furnace. Watching the building foundation Dan herbs floating in the air, Li Baojun felt as though the herbs were placed inside a transparent alchemical furnace, situated in the middle section of the furnace. At the sight of this scene, Li Baojun very much wanted to dig out his eyes and wipe them clean, to make sure his eyes weren't playing tricks on him. Even after having lived so long, it was still the first time he had seen such a strange scene. But what shocked him even more was still the next part, when Chen Xiang poured the flames inside the illusionary brilliant furnace. The scene of flames rising from below, swirling their way into the second level, and baking those herbs was simply astounding. Owing to the flames, those herbs started releasing white and green brilliance, dazzling Li Baojun's eyes to the point that his eyes started to hurt. Which also proved that he wasn't mistaken. Li Baojun gulped fiercely in shock. He was so shocked by Chen Xiang that he was profusely sweating. Only now he knew what Chen Xiang was doing. He was actually refining 2 sets of herbs at the same time. Furthermore, one set was being refined without an alchemical furnace. This way, Chen Xiang could refine 2 sets of Dan at a faster speed. And then, he could use the time he had just saved to employ the refining simulation technique in order to refine the baptizing bone Dan. This kind of far-sighted thinking left Li Baojun in admiration. He suddenly felt that he wasn't a match of Chen Xiang. He felt that aside from the fact that he could refine higher-grade dawn than Chen Xiang's, he was nothing. If someday Chen Xiang could also reach the same level as his, he believed that Chen Xiang would surely be able to refine better high-level dawn than him, especially Quant. 1. Tai-wise. Under normal circumstances, when refining high-level Dan, the alchemists would refine fewer dawn in order to increase their chance of success. Therefore, high-level dawn were very rare. However, if Chen Xiang could refine an extra Dan, he would surely make a killing. When refining high-level dawn, the difference of an extra Dan was comparable to the difference between heaven and earth. Li Baojun calmed himself down as he watched the startling scene of Chen Xiang using the transparent alchemical furnace to refine dawn. Even at his age, he never got to see how the herbs are converted into dawn inside the alchemical furnace with his own eyes. Therefore, this startling scene was a rare sight for him. The spirit herbs contained a vast amount of energy. Once they were incinerated by the flames, it would cause the energy to burst out, which would then release a dazzling aura. Now, when Chen Xiang was refining the building foundation Dan herbs, glaring golden and green brilliance dazzled everyone's eyes. The corresponding scene was extremely beautiful. From the changes happening inside that alchemical furnace, Hua Xiangyue and Li Baojun realized that Chen Xiang was refining the building foundation Dan at an astonishing HI plus ing speed. Furthermore, he was also putting every wisp of those herbal spirit cheese into use. He wasn't wasting even the slightest bit. All of the herbal cheese were being congealed into dawn. Generally, in order to do this, one needed to have a very high degree of control over flames and divine sense, both. Furthermore, the alchemical furnace also needed to act in consort. But Chen Xiang was doing everything flawlessly. More importantly, he was doing it while refining a batch of 5 elements true elemental dawn at the same time. At the sight of this, Hua Xiangyue and Li Baojun were secretly amazed, for they believed that they won't be able to do to this degree. As far as they were concerned, this was the ultimate state of alchemy. At this time, Li Baojun suddenly felt that Chen Xiang would very like become someone an alchemist who would one day surpass Dan King Li Tianjun. He was very familiar with Li Tianjun. He knew that if Li Tianjun descended to the mortal world, perhaps he too would be unable to defeat Chen Xiang. Although he saw Chen Xiang display such a unique alchemy technique, Li Baojun still believed that he could win because Chen Xiang did not know how to refine the baptizing bone dan. Even if Chen Xiang used the refining simulation technique, the chances of failure were pretty big. However, Li Baojun felt that even if won, it was still because of the unfair advantage in the contest, because whether it was Chen Xiang's age or experience in alchemy, they were far too lacking as compared to Li Baojun's. Especially the fact that Chen Xiang didn't know how to refine the baptizing bone dan. Very soon, Forma's SES of green aura appeared in that transparent, illusionary brilliant furnace of Chen Xiang. Seeing Forma's SES of green fogs rotating on their own axis, Li Baojun marveled once more. His own limit was 3 dawn per set. However, Chen Xiang was actually refining 4 and that too in those conditions. Refining 4 building foundation dawn with 1 batch of herbs was pretty easy for Chen Xiang. Even if he was using the Flame Dragon Brilliant Furnace, he would have gotten the same result. However, achieving the same was doubly difficult for other alchemists. Now Li Baojun came to realize why an attractive woman like Hua Xiangyue was willing to be with a kid like Chen Xiang, for Chen Xiang's talent and prospects were simply too horrifying. So long as he was trained properly, Chen Xiang would surely become an outstanding alchemist in the future. In the world of cultivation, no matter how high the level of refiners, array grandmasters, and talisman masters was, they could not be compared to an alchemist. Because the dan refined by a top-level alchemist was simply priceless. It could allow someone to break through their bottleneck, revive someone from the inch of death. Therefore, even those refiners and talisman masters would take most of the items personally crafted by them to please the alchemist so that he would refine a dan for them. And whether the alchemists would refine or not also depended on his or her mood. Soon, 4 glittering green dawn were congealed inside the illusionary brilliant furnace. These were the building foundation dawn. Judging from their color and the herbal qi wafting from them, it was clearly evident that these building foundation dawn were of top-grade quality. Meanwhile, Chen Xiang had also finished refining the 5 elements true elemental dawn. What's more was that there were 10 of them and of top-grade quality at that. Chen Xiang's relaxed expression gave the impression that refining these dawn were as easy as eating for him. As for Li Baojun, he had yet to finish refining 1 set. Now, he decided to get serious, or else, he would lose to Chen Xiang for sure. If he could refine the 3 dawn before Chen Xiang, he could still win the game. Having finished refining the building foundation dawn and the 5 elements true elemental dawn, Chen Xiang began processing the baptizing bone dan herb. He decided that he must get more of these baptizing bone dawn, for he was planning to train a team of 3,000 true martial realm martial artists, and these baptizing bone dawn were very useful in true martial realm. The main ingredients of baptizing bone dan were 3 iron heart fruit. From the books and Su Meiyao, Chen Xiang knew that these iron heart fruits were very difficult to refine. Furthermore, their herbal spirit qi was extremely violent and also very heavy, adding another level of difficulty, especially when congealing the dan. This was what made the baptizing bone dan difficult to refine. Chen Xiang wasn't worried about refining them, as he had the heavenly sun fire spirit. Neither he was worried about the violent nature of the herbal spirit qi, because he could suppress them with his spiritual energy. Since he came to know that the spiritual energy could save his strength when it was used in alchemy, his speed of refining dan had improved a lot. Therefore, refining these extremely difficult dan didn't give him any pressure. Just to be on the safe side, Chen Xiang was planning to use the brilliant flame dragon furnace, since it could also allow him to raise his speed as well. Winning this round would mean pass Xing Li Baojuan's test. Chen Xiang wanted to get that herb garden as soon as possible so that he could return early. For refining the baptizing bone dan, there weren't too many ingredients. However, they were extremely heavy, all because of those 3 iron heart fruit. Although they may be the size of a baby fist, 3 of them altogether weight 100 jin. This in itself proved how mystical this spirit fruit was. Chen Xiang began processing the baptizing bone dan herbs. It was just some auxiliary herbs, which he was finished with very soon. Chen Xiang began processing the baptizing bone dan herbs. It was just some auxiliary herbs, which he was finished with very soon. He was refining this dan for the first time. He had no idea about those 3 iron heart fruit. Neither he was clear about their characteristics, nor he had any idea about what temperature should the flames be adjusted or when would they show any changes in the flames. Since he didn't know anything, just the slightest bit of carelessness would cause him to fail. Therefore, he had to use the refining simulation technique to predict the change at every step. If he learned about what changes would occur and when they would occur, he could make the necessary adjustment. Placing the herbs in the brilliant flame dragon furnace and pouring in the heavenly sun fire, Chen Xiang accepted this new challenge. When Chen Xiang had begun learning alchemy, when he hadn't learned the refining simulation technique, he would always make preparations for the failure. In fact, the refining simulation technique was devised to reduce the failure. Last time, when he was refining the 5 elements true elemental dan, failure was not an option. And this time too, he must successfully refine the dan which he had never refined at his first try. This time if he failed, he won't get that herb garden. Therefore, he needed to be successful, which was another difficult challenge for him. As the rumor stated, the iron heart fruit was very difficult to melt, leaving Chen Xiang no choice but to intensify the flames. Enhancing the temperature of the flame could very easily melt that iron heart fruit that was difficult to melt. A herb that could grow into such a form would surely be storing a kind of strange energy inside it. And when this herb was combined with other auxiliary herbs to refine a dan, the dan could have even more mystical power which could strengthen its user's physique. After intensifying the flames, Chen Xiang used the refining simulation technique. Very soon, Chen Xiang foresaw the complete incineration of the auxiliary herbs because of the excessive flames, thereby destroying the entire herbal spirit qi. This was a very serious problem. Chen Xiang promptly made adjustments and used his powerful divine sense to guard those delicate auxiliary herbs. This way, even if used stronger flames to burn the iron heart fruit, he didn't have to worry about harming the auxiliary herbs. Bit by bit, Chen Xiang strengthened the flames. This iron heart fruit was the hardest herb Chen Xiang had ever encountered. It was very difficult to incinerate. Of course, his heavenly sun flames were very powerful as well, especially after sucking Hua Xiangyue's blood. As he continued to intensify the flames, changes had finally started to occur in that iron heart fruit. Be that as it may, it still took Chen Xiang more than 4 hours to bake that iron heart fruit. However, this was the time inside the brilliant flame dragon furnace. More importantly, the iron spirit fruit had just begun to melt, that's all. It still hadn't been completely incinerated into powder. Difficult as it was to completely extract the herbal spirit qi from baking, in Chen Xiang's opinion, it was a bit easier than the 5 elements true elemental Dan. Not to mention, when he was refining the 5 elements true elemental Dan, he had just gotten hang of the refining simulation technique. In various regards, the condition at that time wasn't as good as now. Therefore, Chen Xiang didn't find refining the baptizing bone Dan extremely difficult. Hua Xiangyue sat in the arbor, playing with her hair. Her pretty eyes were completely focused on Chen Xiang's handsome face. She found a serious Chen Xiang very attractive. Looking at Chen Xiang, her face was flushed red. G.O. D knows what was going on in her brain. 4 dawn can be refined from 1 set of baptizing bone Dan herbs. But now, in my current condition, it seems I can at least refine 6 dawn. This should definitely defeat that old man. Originally, there was a rather serious look on Chen Xiang's face. But now, he looked a lot at ease. Hua Xiangyue had also noticed that he was about to solidify the dawn. Chen Xiang had already spent more than an hour to refine the baptizing bone Dan. He had taken so much time because he was refining it for the first time. Yet, he had already caught up with Li Baojun. In contrast, Li Baojun was refining with ease as he had refined the baptizing bone Dan many times. Be that as it may, a mountain of pressure was pressing on his heart. He was worried that he would lose to Chen Xiang. Chen Xiang was competing with an alchemist at the level of Li Baojun, who could refine the heaven-level dawn for the first time. Although it was a compet. 1. Tie-in using low-level dawn, the foundation of the 2 alchemists could be discerned from it. At this moment, Li Baojun's forehead was drenched in sweat. He was tensed because while he was alchemy, he was also paying attention to Chen Xiang's movement. Finally, having finished first, Li Baojun promptly took out 5 baptizing bone dawn. Those dawn radiating brownish-red brilliance looked strangely beautiful. Seeing that he had refined 5 dawn, a complacent smile appeared on Li Baojun's old face immediately. He believed that it would be very good already if Chen Xiang managed to refine 1 baptizing bone Dan on his first try. Seeing Li Baojun finished refining, Hua Xiangyue immediately came over. Li Baojun had refined 8 5 elements true elemental dawn, 3 building foundation dawn, and 5 baptizing bone dawn. This was already pretty good. At least in the mortal martial world, only a few people could achieve such a result. Hua Xiangyue believed that she herself was just a tad bit better than Li Baojun. A short while after Li Baojun had finished refining the baptizing bone Dan, Chen Xiang also opened his eyes. Spotting this, Hua Xiangyue hurriedly rushed over to him and used a fragrant handkerchief to wipe the sweat on his face. She was very clear about what kind of toll it would take to refine a Dan which he had never refined using the refining simulation technique. Hey, I didn't take long, did I? Stated Chen Xiang. You don't need to worry about it, you didn't lag by too much. Comparing the results of the previous 2 dawn, you are in the lead. But if the baptizing bone dawn you have refined are fewer in number, you will definitely lose to me. You need at least 3 baptizing bone dawn to defeat me. Li Baojun cracked a faint smile. He also knew the refining simulation technique. So, he knew very well that when refining unfamiliar dawn using the refining simulation technique, the number of dawn refined would not be much because it was very difficult to control. Hearing Li Baojun, Chen Xiang promptly opened the lid and took out 6 baptizing bone dawn. Senior Li, please check them. Chen Xiang slightly smiled. His eyes flickered with joy. He was feeling rather satisfied for defeating a high-level alchemist like Li Baojun. At the sight of 6 glittering brownish-red dawn, Li Baojun was shocked silly. He suspected that Chen Xiang had long learned to refine baptizing bone Dan, otherwise, how could he refine so many on his first try? Of course, he didn't know that when Chen Xiang would refine dawn, his would try not to waste even a bit. Therefore, no matter under what circumstances, He could put the herbs to a complete use and refine as many dawn as possible. Hua Xiangyue was only a little surprised. She was already numbed to Chen Xiang's surprising deeds. She said with a cute laugh, "It seems I don't need to partic." 1p8. Li Baojun slumped down to the ground on his ass and heaved a sigh facing skyward. All of a sudden, he had grown a lot older. He never thought that he, who had delved in alchemy for so many years, would lose to a greenhorn kid. Furthermore, he would lose so miserably. He had been thoroughly defeated by Chen Xiang. Taking out all the dawn he and Chen Xiang had refined just now, Li Baojun handed them to Chen Xiang and said, "Take them, you win." "You have Pa," said the test, "this herb garden is yours. For this herb garden to have a master like you is for the best." After taking the dawn, Chen Xiang gave his thanks. "Senior, what are you planning to do next? You have been here for far too long, you should leave. Although the Three Realms' great battle is about to begin, you should go out and take a look at the world." "It might not be a bad thing," said Chen Xiang. Li Baojun nodded in agreement as he said, "I will leave. After having competed with you, I have learned many things. Next time we meet again, I will definitely beat you." Having said this, Li Baojun left this underground herb garden through a one-time teleportation array. The array that was protecting the garden disappeared. As Chen Xiang and Hua Xiangyue walked into the herb garden, their sight was filled with rare and precious herbs, a majority of which Chen Xiang wasn't in short supply, like herbs for building foundation dan, 5 elements true elemental dan 100 beast dawn, these low-grade profound level dawn. What he was in lacking was the herbs for middle-grade and high-grade profound level dawn. The array that was protecting the garden disappeared. As Chen Xiang and Hua Xiangyue walked into the herb garden, their sight was filled with rare and precious herbs, a majority of which Chen Xiang wasn't in short supply, like herbs for building foundation dan, 5 elements true elemental dan 100 beast dawn, these low-grade profound level dawn. What he was in lacking was the herbs for middle-grade and high-grade profound level dawn. The resurrection GRA. S and 9 elemental flower, take them. What else do you need, tell me? Chen Xiang generously offered. I don't want them, keep them for yourself. Hua Xiangyue heaved a sigh. There were only 2 each of resurrection GRA. S and 9 elemental flower, that's all. Chen Xiang pursed his lips, all right? Pentacrystal dragon fruit, I have not seen it for a long time. Hua Xiangyue gazed at a fruit on a tree with surprise. Although there was only one, it was regarded as the most important thing by Hua Xiangyue. Chen Xiang cracked a smile and said, "This is one of the main ingredients for refining 5 elements profound dan, right?" Hua Xiangyue nodded in acknowledgement. "Last time, you were only able to stride into the extreme state because you ate 5 elements profound fan. TLN. Chapter 396, even I had to look for it, I venture you will try to remember it as well." Chen Xiang had gotten that 5 elements profound dan from W. A. N. Jiquan. It indeed played a crucial role in Chen Xiang's entering the extreme state. Profound Lightning GRA. SS. With its profound lightning seed plus with the lightning element fruit that you bought from the auction earlier, you can refine Heavenly Lightning Pellet. The Heavenly Lightning Pellet is an attack-type middle-grade profound level dan. Su Meiyao said. Hearing Su Meiyao's remark, Chen Xiang lightly caressed an approximately 1 foot tall GRA. SS. But just as he did, flashes of lightning glittered on its surface, which caused Chen Xiang to jump back in fright. True purple figwort, 9 fruits flower, golden fame flower, this are but the herbs to refine innate 9 elements dan, which is quite similar to 5 elements true elemental dan. It can allow its consumer to obtain a vast amount of true qi very quickly. Hua Xiangyue was wandering about the herb garden. Needed as the herbs in here were for her, they were all in random, incomplete set poresi. Furthermore, there were very few in number. Also, she could not bear to take Chen Xiang's things. A vast majority of herbs here were either low-grade profound-level herbs or spirit-level herb. Middle-grade and high-grade profound-level herbs were very few in number. As for earth-level herbs, there were only two, which were for the resurrection dan. However, as far as Chun Xiang was concerned, it was a pretty big harvest. Currently, he started to move these herbs into the herb garden inside his ring. Surprisingly, the ring could still accommodate these many herbs. There were also many auxiliary herbs in the herb garden, all of which were 10,000 years older. These could be dug up and saved, there was no need to plant them again. With the help of Hua Xiangyue, the herb garden was emptied out very soon. Do you want the soil? This is spirit soil. Hua Xiangyue asked. There was with a frown on her brow. She was very clear what was so precious about this soil. I don't need it. Do you want it? Chun Xiang wasn't lacking spirit soil. He already had a lot of it. Since you don't need, I am taking it. Hua Xiangyue's hand was already in motion. Using that ultra-strong strength of her, she made a large one tie of soil float in the air before storing it inside her storage ring. Chun Xiang pursed his lips into a smile and said, Sister Xiangyue, you went through so much trouble to come here with me, and yet gained nothing. Also, you have been taken advantage of by me. I am really sorry. Go to Hell, you scoundrel, you still talking about that sing thing. Hua Xiangyue let out a tender snort as he stepped on Chun Xiang's foot. Recalling Chun Xiang fondling her breast, she was fuming in anger. Just like this, Chun Xiang and Hua Xiangyue frolic about as they left this underground herb garden. Chun Xiang knew that his hands would be full later, for he had to plant many herbs, refine many dawn, train his own forces, improve his cultivation. This was all in order to be ready for the approaching great battle of three realms. The Qinwu mainland was the front line of the mortal martial world. As a disciple of extreme martial sect, he was under a lot of pressure. At that time, so long as the extreme martial sect disciple was powerful, he would have to deal with those demons and devils. Sister Xiangyue, when is the great battle of three realms about to start? Asked Chun Xiang. Hearing this question, Hua Xiangyue could not help but heave a sigh. This was something which every expert of the Qinwu mainland was worried about, because that would be the day when the Qinwu mainland would be plunged into misery. There is still some time to prepare. You must survive the battle. Pulling Chun Xiang's hand, Hua Xiangyue held it very, very tightly. Worry was clearly written on her face. The complex look in her eyes puzzled Chun Xiang. I give you my word. Having promised, Chun Xiang took out that disc and looked through the coordinates recorded in it. Very soon, he found a teleportation point close to the king's city. Seeing Chun Xiang take out this thing, Hua Xiangyue's heart was gripped with fear. Earlier, when she went through this thing with Chun Xiang, it led to a very dreadful place where they encountered a dragon. Don't worry, this time we will be directly leaving this ghastly place, said Chun Xiang, a smile on his lips. Having assured Hua Xiangyue, he opened AC door and entered it, pulling Hua Xiangyue. In just a blink of an eye, they emerged in a forest. The trees in the forest were very common. The spirit qi in here was also thinner than the spirit qi in the forest they were in before. Where are we? Hua Xiangyue was shocked. Now only did she came to realize how amazing the disc in Chun Xiang's hand was. With this, he could pierce through space and go to a faraway place anytime and from anywhere. Chun Xiang broke into a laugh and answered, We are just outside the king's city. We can return to the Qinwu mainland very soon. Although there was a teleportation point recorded in the Luo Tian door for the Qinwu mainland, Chun Xiang's current strength was limited. He was still unable to open a space door that could traverse through such a long distance. Hua Xiangyue and Chun Xiang, with a mask on their faces, entered the king's city and returned to the Qinwu mainland through the teleportation array right after. To be precise, returned to the topmost floor of the Danxiang Tower. "We are finally back. I never thought I would actually encounter so many things on a trip with you, little rascal." Hua Xiangyue spoke with feelings. More importantly, it was more fun to go with Chen Xiang than going by herself. Whenever she went alone, she would get bored to death. Furthermore, she would be aimlessly searching for herbs all day. Chen Xiang broke into a laugh and said, "Next time, I will take you and Menger together, hey hey." Seeing that perverted smile, Hua Xiangyue rolled her yes at Chen Xiang. "You have a wife, behave yourself." "I have been behaving very honestly, otherwise you would long have been eaten by me," said Chen Xiang, laughing honestly. "Go away, I am very busy." Hua Xiangyue harumphed tenderly. Chen Xiang suddenly came to her side and gave a peck on her cheek before jumping out of the window. "Little rascal," Hua Xiangyue shouted in a cutesy voice. As she caressed the place kissed by Chen Xiang, a charming blush appeared on her face. She was kissed by a man for the first time. Chen Xiang, who was in a wonderful mood, flew out of the Taoyuan province and returned to the extreme martial sect very soon. "Sai Qianqian, where are you? I am bored to death here." Chen Xiang heaved a sigh as he murmured to himself. The extreme Dan King courtyard had always been deserted. Except for Chen Xiang, this place was devoid of anyone. With no choice at hand, Chen Xiang could only look for Yun Xiandao and the others. But he was disappointed once again. He didn't find anyone. All of them were going through brutal training under Gu Dongchen's arrangement. Not only Yun Xiaodao's group, all the disciples of extreme martial sect were training 3 times harder than before. This was all in order to be prepared for that great battle of 3 realms. At this moment, the news about the great battle of 3 realms could not be concealed. It had already spread far and wide across the Qinwu mainland. Knowing that the demons and devils would enter the Qinwu mainland, the Qinwu mainland had already gone through many changes. Everyone was on their tenterhooks. A short while after Chen Xiang returned to the extreme martial sect, he took another trip to the divine weapon Heavenly Empire, looking for Lu Meng. However, to his disappointment, Lu Menger had yet not returned, leaving him no choice but to return to the extreme Dan King courtyard and wait. A short while after Chen Xiang returned to the extreme martial sect, he took another trip to the divine weapon Heavenly Empire, looking for Lu Meng. However, to his disappointment, Lu Menger had yet not returned, leaving him no choice but to return to the extreme Dan King courtyard and wait. "It seems I have to make a trip to the Icewind Valley myself to look for her," Chen Xiang wondered. Then, he closed his eyes, trying to congeal the golden dragon's saliva. He ventured that Hua Xiangyue was in very much need of the resurrection Dan herbs and the fruit of fortune. Although he has had not the faintest of an idea as to what were her feelings for him, he trusted Hua Xiangyue very much. Not to mention, this beautiful and charming woman had helped him so many times. Now that he had entered the extreme state, the ripening ability of the golden dragon saliva had been strengthened a lot. Su Meiyao had once said that if and when Chen Xiang's cultivation reached a certain level, the dragon's saliva congealed could mature some spirit herbs by a couple millennia in the blink of an eye. Chen Xiang's current golden dragon saliva was also pretty good. According to his estimation, he would be able to get 5 sets of resurrection Dan herbs and a fruit of fortune in just 2 months. The herbs of resurrection Dan had long been planted by him. Moreover, he had also acquired 2 sets of herbs from the underground herb garden in the sacred ancient land. At present, his focus was on that tree of fortune. He was planting a heaven-level spirit herb for the first time, and a tree at that. All Chen Xiang knew was that the good fortune Dan was used by the Nirvana cultivators to improve their strength. Once a cultivator had entered the Nirvana realm, he or she needed to compress a lot of his or her true qi. Ordinary dawn had little to no effect on them. Taking a good fortune Dan would allow them to save a lot of time in their cultivation. Good fortune Dan is needed by martial artists who had crossed 6 or more Nirvana tribulations. Even the immortals who had crossed the ninth tribulations would need this Dan to quickly improve their cultivations. You should know that the good fortune Dan not only improves one's true chi, it helps in improving one's divine sense and physique as well. This is an all-purpose Dan. Even in the heavenly realm, it's rare and in demand, explained Su Meiyao. Chen Xiang asked, "Is fruit of fortune the only main ingredient for refining the good fortune Dan?" It can be refined in that way, however. There are some alchemists who would add some other heaven-level spirit herbs to increases their chances of success. If it's you, I think you can directly use this fruit of fortune plus auxiliary herbs that are 10,000 years old or older to refine. However, your current divine sense and true chi is still lacking. Since true chi was used to release the flames, the stronger the flame released, the more the true chi is needed. And as a heaven-level spirit fruit, the fruit of fortune had a very tenacious life force. In other words, any ordinary flames were simply ineffective to this level of fruit. Even the immortals of the heavenly realm needs it. If in the future I can have many good fortune Dan, wouldn't I be able to roam in the heavenly realm rather aloofly? Chen Xiang said, excited. Not necessarily. Those forces of the heavenly realm won't allow a new force with a lot of resources to emerge. Either they would rope you in or destroy you. If you didn't have the backing of the extreme martial sect, Lu Menger and Hua Xiangyue, the same principle would have also applied in the mortal martial world. Bai Yuyu poured cold water of all of Chen Xiang's excitement. Last time, when Chen Xiang was partic. 1p. Aiding in the alchemy compet. 1. Tian on King's mainland, he had refined many 5 elements true elemental dawn. At that time, Wang Quan was so jealous of him that he wanted Chen Xiang dead, because with that kind dawn, Chen Xiang could train many powerful true martial realm martial artists. That was something that no money could buy. Su Meiyao and Bai Yuyu were guiding Chen Xiang with zeal and vigor because they wanted to make Chen Xiang ascend into the heavenly realm as soon as possible. Only their Chen Xiang could find the herbs which could restore their strength. However, Chen Xiang still had a long way to go for that. At present, they began preparing Chen Xiang for the heavenly realm. Early as it might look, they believed that with Chen Xiang's current speed, it was about time. Young martial uncle, open the door. You have shut yourself in for over a month, everything is about to get mildewed. Gu Dongchen exhorted to open the door. In fact, Gu Dongchen had come several times looking for Chen Xiang, but Chen Xiang simply didn't open the door. Only Chen Xiang could deny an honorable dean of extreme martial sect entrance at the door. Little Featherhead, you are a dean, but you still seem to be at leisure and free. My disciple, who is in the early stage of the spirit martial realm, is busy, yet why are you goofing around? Finally opening the door, Chen Xiang spoke in a rude manner. Gu Dongchen pursed his lips and said, "Where have I had the time to be so free? I have been training those little rascals of King Courtyard all day. Also, I have to pay attention to the overall situation, stabilize the entire extreme martial province. Junior brother is about to cross Nirvana tribulation, I am neck-deep in work." "Then, why are you still bothering me?" Chen Xiang invited Gu Dongchen in. "I wanted to buy a bit of your 5 elements true elemental dawn, you can offer your price." Gu Dongchen, with a bitter smile on his face, continued, "I am at your door, ready to let you butcher me, are you still not happy? 2 million crystal stones for one, don't bargain with me," Chen Xiang said as a sinister smile crept up on his lips. Since Gu Dongchen had delivered himself to get slaughtered, why would Chen Xiang not butcher him ruthlessly? Hearing the price, a forlorn look immediately appeared on Gu Dongchen's face. He shook his head as he heaved a sigh. "How good it would have been if I had a beautiful daughter. Maybe you would have given me the dawn for free." "Give me 100 dawn at first," Gu Dongchen said. "Pay me with true elemental dawn," said Chen Xiang. He was in need of a lot of true elemental dawn. When he was going to train his own force, he would use Dan Si technique. Smash everyone to death with his dawn. He was going to build a small army of 3,000 true martial realm experts. Having sorted and paid true elemental dawn to Chen Xiang, Gu Dongchen hastily left. As high price as Chen Xiang had asked, he knew that in the entire mortal martial world, it would be very hard for him to buy so many 5 elements true elemental dawn at once. Because of the development for so many years, some of the spirit herbs had become scarce. This was also the reason why there were so few alchemists. Therefore, the current mortal martial world was far worse than when it was 100 millennia ago. And the true martial realm experts were the backbone of any sect, the more the better. And this required a large number of dawn. Chen Xiang believed that if he opened a shop, it would be a big hit, for his building foundation dawn, 5 elements true elemental dawn, and the elemental spirit dawn were rare and sought after. However, he himself was in need of them. Sigh, I have to consolidate my cultivation now. If I could raise my cultivation, the golden dragon saliva's potency would surely become very strong. Chen Xiang heaved a sigh of lament. Your mad teacher is very good to you. Bear with it. It is already very difficult for you to reach this stage in such a short time and using so many dawn. Furthermore, your current strength is good enough. It should allow you to survive the great battle of 3 realm, said Su Meiyao. Even so, Chen Xiang still had many things he had to do. Although he could no longer cultivate true qi, he still could train his body, cultivate in Hi+2 plant herbs. Each of them could improve his strength. Over these 2 months, as Chen Xiang had expected, the tree of fortune had grown. Furthermore, it had also borne a fruit. He had already gathered 5 sets of resurrection dan herbs. Hey, it's about time for me to take that enchanting Hua Xiangyu my maid one. Chen Xiang broke into a perverted laugh as he continued, bringing such an enchanting slave wherever I go, it sure is going to be eye-catching. You will only get yourself killed by the jealous gazes of all the men. Su Meiyao laughed her mischievously as she said. She had no objection regarding Chen Xiang pulling in Hu Xiangyue, for she felt that an alchemist like Hua Xiangyue could also bolster Chen Xiang's forces. Chen Xiang felt that he truly was a spirit herb treasure house. However, that herb garden in that ring was getting crammed more and more. Chen Xiang had been to Fragrance City many times, but he never went to Danxiang Taoyuan. Furthermore, it was not a place that anyone could enter. From what Chen Xiang had heard, only the core disciples could enter Danxiang Taoyuan, and the outer disciples could only stay at Fragrance City or outside Danxiang Taoyuan, that's all. Chen Xiang had been to Fragrance City many times, but he never went to Danxiang Taoyuan. Furthermore, it was not a place that anyone could enter. From what Chen Xiang had heard, only the core disciples could enter Danxiang Taoyuan, and the outer disciples could only stay at Fragrance City or outside Danxiang Taoyuan, that's all. Having crossed Fragrance City, Chen Xiang arrived at a canyon. On the steep cliffs on either side of the canyon, many lush and verdant vines were hanging down, surrounded by colorful flowers. Chen Xiang had never seen such a beautiful canyon before. Danxiang Taoyuan was on the other side of the canyon. Chen Xiang had heard Hua Xiangyu mentioned that Danxiang Taoyuan was the most beautiful sect in the Qinwu mainland. After having arrived at this canyon, Chen Xiang no longer held any doubt. Chen Xiang. Having recognized Chen Xiang, the patrol guards in the canyon exclaimed. They hastily bowed to Chen Xiang in respect. After all, Chen Xiang was the honorary chief alchemist of Danxiang Taoyuan. Hua Xiangyue had long exhorted that Chen Xiang would be unrestricted in Danxiang Taoyuan. As many as alchemists there were inside Danxiang Taoyuan, martial artists who could refine dawn were far more. Moreover, these martial artists had attached themselves to some alchemists, therefore, they were very respectful to the alchemists. Not to mention Chen Xiang, who was an alchemy prodigy. Chen Xiang also bowed in return quickly. Danxiang Taoyuan and the extreme martial sect always had pretty good relations. The disciples of both sects had gone back and forth to the other side and done dealings once or more. Therefore, whenever they met each other, they would be very polite to the other. After crossing this beautiful canyon, a misty lake presented before Chen Xiang. Next to the lake stood small but very unique buildings. Some only had one floor, other had 2 to 3 floors. They looked like a small picturesque village. None would have imagined that the core region of such a huge influence would be so simple. But very soon, Chen Xiang came to realize the extraordinary part of that lake. The mist rising from the lake was actually dense spirit qi. Furthermore, there were a few streams connected to the lake, and next to each of these streams was elegant houses. "This is a mysterious realm," said Su Meiyao. After similarly sensing the rich spirit qi here, Chen Xiang recalled that the Danxiang Taoyuan had that 10,000 years old spirit milk. Chen Xiang had long guessed that only a place with rich dense spirit qi could give birth to 10,000 years old spirit milk. No wonder only core disciples were allowed to come in here. It's the same with the extreme martial sect, Chen Xiang stated. In the extreme martial sect, only the true martial realm disciples were allowed to enter the extreme martial mysterious realm. Danxiang Taoyuan was truly beautiful. It looked like a paradise. Melodious twitters of birds and the sweet fragrance of flowers lingered in the air. Everywhere in sight had flowers blooming. In many places one could see some spirit flowers and spirit grasses. The spirit qi was so rich here that it had transformed into mist, which was scattered everywhere. The roars of waterfalls cross ing down the mountain were the only noise in this calm and serene mysterious realm. However, it did not destroy the beauty of this mysterious realm. On the contrary, it added a magnificence of it. After Chen Xiang came in, he noticed a few patrol teams patrolling here, once more. All of them were true martial realm martial artists. Even at the entrance of the mysterious realm stood a few powerful martial artists. Chen Xiang slowly made his way to the lakeside, looking about at the picturesque scenery here. Smelling the lingering sweet fragrance in the air, Chen Xiang felt that it won't be a bad idea to go into a closed-door training here. In the past, when he was in the secular world, Hua Xiangyue had tried everything to recruit Chen Xiang. Now, Chen Xiang was feeling a bit regretful. "Chen Xiang, right? It's really rare meeting you here." A voice suddenly resounded. The voice belonged to a beautiful and refined middle-aged beauty. Mrs. Li. Chen Xiang was also acquainted with Danxiang Tower's Mrs. Li. He cracked a smile and said, "Your Danxiang Taoyuan is very beautiful. Our extreme martial sect only has buildings one after another. Although we also have a mysterious realm, it isn't so beautiful." Mrs. Li pursed her lips into a smile. "Then in the future, you can often come and stay here." "Right, I am looking for your dean. Where should I go?" asked Chen Xiang. "The source of the river stream here is the restricted area. That's also the place where she is staying. Apart from her, no one is allowed to go there. You can only wait for her here," answered Mrs. Li. Chen Xiang thanked Mrs. Li as he ran down a small stream towards the source. At this time, Chen Xiang saw that before the buildings next to these streams, there was a small courtyard as well. However, these courtyards were only surrounded by a common fence. But to his surprise, there were some spirit herbs planted in these courtyards. A majority of these spirit herbs were high-grade spirit-level herbs for refining true elemental Dan and white jade Dan like dawn. There were some courtyards that had spirit herbs, particularly for refining detoxification dawn. There were many herb gardens here. After counting a bit, Chen Xiang estimated that there were at least 100 of them here. Furthermore, there were some bigger gardens far away next to the river. The spirit qi is so dense here that the spirit herbs grow very quickly after watering them with these water here. No wonder the Danxiang Taoyuan can supply spirit herbs in a steady stream. Furthermore, they have so many alchemists themselves, stated Su Meiyao. Danxiang Taoyuan could recruit so many alchemists because they have many spirit herbs. More importantly, they had such a good environment for planting spirit herbs. Therefore, the Danxiang Taoyuan had become the holy land that the alchemists yearned for. Like the extreme martial sect, the Danxiang Taoyuan had also entered an alert state as the great battle of three realms approached closer. Many people were busy refining many dawn, because, at that time, many dawn would be needed, especially the healing dawn. Down the stream, Chen Xiang noticed that the buildings became fewer and fewer, while the spirit qi became a bit thinner. After traveling for an hour or so, Chen Xiang suddenly spotted a huge fountain gust plusing out and falling into a lake, which was the source of several streams here. This spring water is so rich in spirit qi. However, just after coming out, it needed some time to erode away for the spirit qi in the water to become active. Only then could the mist emerge. Therefore, only after flowing for some time did the mist rise from it. And because of this, the spirit qi is thinner here. Su Meiyao said, marveling. Now, Chen Xiang realized why the buildings were erected at the end of the river streams. The spirit qi at the source was thinner. But why is Hua Xiangyue staying here? This question puzzled Chen Xiang. Chen Xiang had already spotted a cave on the huge mountain in the front. As he made his way to the cave, he discovered a horrifying power lingering around the entrance. Previously, Hua Xiangyue had given him a pearl saying that as long as he took that pearl out, he could enter the restricted area of the Danxiang Taoyuan. Chen Xiang also wanted to see what was there inside the restricted area. After Chen Xiang took out the pearl, he didn't suffer any kind of attack from the spells protecting the entrance. He easily went in. After going through a long passage, he arrived in a wide stone room. There were many tables and chairs carved out of rock here. It was an audience hall. Going through a door, Chen Xiang traveled down another passage. As he carefully pushed open the gates carved out of rocks at the end of the passage, a stone room exuding a white, gentle aura appeared before him. He could smell the unique bodily fragrance of Hua Xiangyue in the air. He knew that this was definitely Hua Xiangyue's boudoir. He took a closer look and saw Hua Xiangyue, who currently had her eyes closed, sitting in a lotus position on a white jade bed that had mist emerging from it. To his shock, she wasn't wearing anything. At the sight of this scene, Chen Xiang's heartbeat rose slightly. But what made him gnash his teeth was that the mist arising from the jade bed was too dense. He was unable to see the Ravis.H.I. plus ing parts he wanted to see. At the sight of this scene, Chen Xiang's heartbeat rose slightly. But what made him gnash his teeth was that the mist arising from the jade bed was too dense. He was unable to see the Ravis.H.I. plus ing parts he wanted to see. Nonetheless, the blurry scene was even more tempting. Earlier, Hua Xiangyue had said that if he came in, he had to wait outside for her, asked him not to move around. However, Chen Xiang didn't pay any attention to her instructions, for he was in a hurry to see Hua Xiangyue. Chen Xiang very much wanted to blow the mist away. That way he could see Hua Xiangyue's Ravis.H.I. plusing body clearly. However, he only dared to think about it. He didn't dare to execute it. In light of these circumstances, he could only sigh and lament. Only then did he notice that there was a small pond in the room as well. This small pond was just as big as the bed and also had some mist arising from it. However, it wasn't spirit qi at all. This is a special kind of hot qi. It should be able to help her cultivate her flames. This seductress is an alchemist. She has very high requirements for flames, explained Long Shui. How about I help you blow this mist away? Asked Long Shui as she broke into a mischievous laughter. Chen Xiang very much wanted to agree. He was struggling in his heart. Finally, he still refused, for he was worried that it would affect Hua Xiangyue's cultivation, which might lead to a qigong deviation, which would be extremely bad. When he was just about to shut the doors and leave, Hua Xiangyue's benumbing voice fell into his ears. Little rascal, why don't you come in? I have been waiting for you for a long time. Chen Xiang gulped nervously, again and again before coming inside in large strides. This, Sister Xiangyue, I didn't see anything. Hearing this, Hua Xiangyue broke into a giggle. Then she turned around, putting on a loose white maxi. Didn't I tell you that when anyone comes in, I will know immediately? I asked to wait outside, but you were so unscrupulous. You wanted to peek at me. Hua Xiangyue gave a sidelong glance at Chen Xiang. That stunning oval face was filled with a bewitching look. Right afterward, Hua Xiangyue's voice turned angry. Little rascal, did you came looking for me after you couldn't meet Sister Menger again? At this moment, Hua Xiangyue was resorting to her charms. She had put that enticing charm of hers full on display, without any reserve. Seeing this, Chen Xiang could not wait to tear that maxi of her and push her down on the bed, show her that seducing a man like this had serious consequences. Seeing Chen Xiang blush, Hi+ing, Hua Xiangyue chortled and said, Never think that only you can tease me, I can also tease you. Chen Xiang took a deep breath and said, If I take liberties with you, I will not be eaten by you absolutely, but if you take liberties with me, hey hey. While speaking, Chen Xiang pulled Hua Xiangyue into his embrace suddenly. At present, Hua Xiangyue was only wearing a thin maxi, she wasn't wearing anything inside. When Chen Xiang hugged her, he could feel the two pointy tips pressing on his chest, which made Chen Xiang's lower abdomen explode. An evil fire violently rose from his lower body, spreading to his limbs and bones. His heartbeat and body temperature rose at once. He almost lost his mind. Chen Xiang fiercely inhaled near Hua Xiangyue's neck, greedily sucking in the sweet fragrance lingering around her body. Hua Xiangyue gave out a tender shout as she pushed Chen Xiang in a hurry. Her face, on the other hand, had a smug smile. Little rascal, you better remember that this elder sister is far more powerful than you. You think you can eat me so easily? I am not going to give myself to you, but I can tease you, seduce you. You can only watch, but you can't be able to do anything. Damn witch. Chen Xiang groaned and turned his head. Who could blame him? He was almost 30. Although he had a wife, to this date, he was still a virgin. Hua Xiangyue knew that she could not take things too far. She chortled and said, I am sorry, I didn't expect this elder sister's seduction would be too much for you to handle. Bulls. Hi+T. Chen Xiang snorted in a low voice. Just a moment ago, the only thought in his mind was to press her down summarily. To what do I owe the pleasure? You are not going to ask me to go around once again, do you? Asked Hua Xiangyue. Speaking of this, a secretly satisfied Chen Xiang hurriedly took out 6 jade boxes and said, a smile on his lips, Of course, I came bearing gifts. To be honest, last time, I took too much advantage of you therefore, I am here to compensate you. Hua Xiangyue nibbled her lips and said in a low voice, I accept your good intentions, I am very grateful about it, however, I know these things will be very useful to you in the future. These things are getting scarcer and scarcer. If you give them to me now, what are you going use in the future? She didn't even take look. She knew Chen Xiang wanted to give her something. Previously, she was just joking, she didn't expect Chen Xiang to bear it in mind. This moved her very much, a warmth flooded her heart. Chen Xiang smiled and said, Rest assured, I am really not short of them. He ventured that Hua Xiangyue was about to cross her nirvana tribulation, and for that, she definitely needed these things. Therefore, he would not be stingy about it absolutely. In any case, it was not difficult for him to get them, even a bit. Hua Xiangyue faintly sighed as she opened those jade boxes. Inside the boxes were the 5 sets of Resurrection Dan herbs, and a fruit of fortune as well. Don't tell Sister Menger for the time being, she would definitely get jealous, said Chen Xiang as he broke into a mischievous laugh. Hua Xiangyue was quite a proficient alchemist. At one glance, she had noticed that these spirit herbs had just been picked, particularly the fruit of fortune, which had just been picked from the tree. At this instant, Hua Xiangyue was struck with a fearful thought. However, there wasn't any change in her expression, because she had associated it with that golden liquid which Chen Xiang had once fed to Lanlan. It was quite similar to the 10,000 years old spirit milk that Danxiang Taoyuan had. She suspected that Chen Xiang quite possibly had something similar to the 10,000 years old spirit milk, owing to which he could grow many herbs quickly. However, the 10,000 years old spirit milk was quite scarce. It was simply insufficient to use in large quant. 1 Tai. Menger is yours. It's very normal for you to give things to her. However, what am I to you? Hua Xiangyue had no intentions to refuse Chen Xiang's kindness. More importantly, she too wanted these things. A perverted smile crept up on Chen Xiang's lips immediately as he said, "Didn't you want to become my maid? Hey, is that still valid?" Hua Xiangyue's eyes immediately lit up. She pursed her lips into a smile. "Of course. Now you finally realize how good I am." While speaking, she charmingly flung her hair. Her charm made the onlooking Chen Xiang burn with pious shaun. "That's better. From today you are my maid." Chen Xiang, rubbing his hands, said, "Your maid greets young master." Hua Xiangyue chortled as he hastily bowed to Chen Xiang and continued, "However, you must sign a master-servant contract with me." Master-servant contract? Chen Xiang had never heard of such a thing. It was the first time he was hearing. "What is that?" asked Chen Xiang. "With this contract, I won't betray you. However, you also have to act according to the contract. You must take good care of me." Hua Xiangyue looked at Chen Xiang with a gentle gaze. Right then, Chen Xiang spotted purple spell diagrams glittering in those pretty eyes of Hua Xiangyue. Suddenly, Chen Xiang was shocked as the content of that contract appeared in his mind. "It's done. One day you will understand why I did this," Hua Xiangyue said with a complex look. At this time, Long Shui blurted out all of a sudden, "This is master-servant death contract. As long as you are dead, this young lady will also die." Having come to know that the master-servant death contract to be so terrifying, Chen Xiang was so scared that fear was clearly written on his face. However, this made it even more difficult for him to understand. To his surprise, the contract was over in a moment of a daze. Having come to know that the master-servant death contract to be so terrifying, Chen Xiang was so scared that fear was clearly written on his face. However, this made it even more difficult for him to understand. To his surprise, the contract was over in a moment of a daze. "You are the lord and she is the servant, that's why the contract was completely so easily. But why did this woman do this?" Long Shui found it difficult to comprehend. The same was true for Su Meiyao and Bai Yuyu. Noticing Chen Xiang's expression, a frown appeared on Hua Xiangyue's brow as she asked, "What is it? Isn't this master-servant death contract?" Chen Xiang asked. "How do you know this?" Hua Xiangyue blurted out in surprise. "That's right. If you are dead, I too will die. Since you have taken me as your maid, of course, I would have to live and die with you." Chen Xiang heaved a sigh. "Why did you do this? You will understand it in the future. In short, it will not bring any harm to you. Now that I have become your maid, aren't you happy?" Hua Xiangyue chortled. Suddenly, a perverted smile appeared on Chen Xiang's lips as he said, "So, can I do anything to you?" While speaking, Chen Xiang caressed that charming face of Hua Xiangyue with the back of his hand. "Of course, but you can't go too far, unless you have the ability to not let me stop you," Hua Xiangyue said with a chuckle. Her gaze was filled with a teasing look. Chen Xiang pulled Hua Xiangyue in his embrace at once and said with a perverted smile, "Maid Xiangyue, you better take care of this great master well, or else I will smack your ass. No, your ass is pretty big, very round, very curvy, very supple." Suddenly, the arm that was holding Hua Xiangyue's waist slipped down, stopping on those shapely talks and then, lightly kneading them. He felt really good, so good that he wanted to continue fondling them to eternity. Hua Xiangyue's face flushed red. She immediately lashed out in anger. pinching Chen Xiang's waist. "Little rascal, get your hands off them, I still have important things to do. I will attend you properly later." Kissing her beautiful cheeks, Chen Xiang broke into laughter and said, "Though I don't know what are your intentions for me, but since you have delivered yourself at my door, how could I not savor a free lunch? It would be a pity not to." Hua Xiangyu also gave a peck on Chen Xiang's cheek, before she said with a chuckle, looking at Chen Xiang with a gentle gaze, "My dear master, why does it never cross your mind that I might like you? Knock it off, anyway, I am already yours. In the future, you will have the opportunity to do anything you like to me," said Hua Xiangyue plus-ing away the dishonest hand of Chen Xiang that was playing with her chest. She had long known that after she became Chen Xiang's maid, Chen Xiang would definitely do these kinds of things. She had long prepared her heart as well. Having just tasted, Chen Xiang was infatuated. He was a bit disappointed. However, he knew that Hua Xiangyue indeed had some important things to do. After bidding Hua Xiangyue goodbye, Chen Xiang circled around the picturesque Danxiang Taoyuan and came to the divine weapon Heavenly Empire. At first, he was planning to refine Dawn, but suddenly he recalled the matter of White Tiger Divine Weapon, the Azure Dragon Divine Weapon, the Black Tortoise Divine Weapon, and the Vermilion Bird Divine Weapon had already appeared in the world. However, the Vermilion Bird Divine Weapon was with Lu Menger. Last time, when Chen Xiang and Lu Menger had brought the three divine weapons together, they had sensed the location of White Tiger Divine Weapon. In order to confirm the location of the White Tiger Divine Weapon, he needed to find Lu Menger. The last time when he came to the Divine Weapon Heavenly Empire was 2 months ago. If he didn't find Lu Menger her again, he would be left with no choice but to take a trip to Icewind Valley. After having entered the Divine Weapon Palace, Chen Xiang, by relying on the token given to him by Lu Menger, flamboyantly made his way to the Lu Menger Palace. After entering the door, Chen Xiang immediately saw a woman dressed in a white palace dress sitting on the lawn, looking at a sheet spread on the ground. The sheet was crowded with spirit patterns. The woman was none other than Lu Menger. Last time when Chen Xiang had come here, Lu Menger was still studying these spirit patterns. TLN. I didn't have a proper translation for it, I went with whatever I can think of, but if you have some Chinese shows related to royalty, you might have seen the harem members or princess wearing these dresses. For a clear picture, click here. Seeing this striking empress with such grace and elegance, Chen Xiang's corners rose slightly, revealing a strange yet evil smile. "Little rascal, what's the matter? Speak quickly. Don't you know that the entire mortal world is in a state of alert now? Why are you still running around?" Lu Menger turned around and said. Her face filled with jealousy as she wrinkled that lovely nose of hers and said, "I can smell that enchantress Hua Xiangyue's fragrance on you." Chen Xiang also took a few whiffs before he spoke with a mischievous smile on his face. "But why am I smelling a sour smell? Good gracious, have you broken a jar of vinegar?" TLN. Breaking a jar of vinegar, meaning burning with jealousy. Humph, hateful little rascal, did you go looking for that enchantress when you didn't find me? Lu Menger rolled her eyes at Chen Xiang as she put away that sheet on the ground. Making his way next to her, Chen Xiang sat down. Then, he took out a book and waved before her as he said with a smile, "Guess what is this? The Complete Refiner's Scroll, hey!" Lu Menger's eyes immediately lit up. She had always been wanting to ask Chen Xiang about it. However, whenever she was with Chen Xiang would always make her angry. She simply did not think about it. Lu Menger immediately reached out. However, Chen Xiang hastily put it away and looked at her with a wicked intention. Lu Menger pouted her lips in anger before she let out a soft harumph. With her mature charm in action, she looked extremely cute, infatuating the onlooking Chen Xiang completely. He could not help but rush over and tightly hug Lu Menger's soft body. Lu Menger had already figured that Chen Xiang would surely harass her first. However, she too had no other way. She herself could not bear to retain her bearing of an empress before Chen Xiang. Very soon, she and Chen Xiang were rolling on the lawn, kissing fervently. Chen Xiang hadn't been intimate with Lu Menjie for a long time. And the same was true for Lu Menjie as well. At this moment, she was like a delicate flower, accepting Chen Xiang's irrigation and caring. Sweet butterflies were flying in her heart. Tell me the truth, have you ever crossed this line with that enchantress? Lu Menjie, lying on Chen Xiang's body, looked at Chen Xiang with a skeptical gaze. Not yet, but I have seen her big rabbits. Hey, she is but my maid now. Caressing Lu Menjie's face, Chen Xiang replied with a mischievous laughter. When he spoke of big rabbits, Lu Menjie let out a tender snort as she punched Chen Xiang's chest. What did you do to her? Chen Xiang sat up, letting Lu Menjie lie in his arm. On one side, he was caressing her smooth and supple hands, while on the other, he was stroking her jet black hair. Slowly, he narrated Lu Menjie about the time when he went to the sacred ancient land with Hua Xiangyu. At that time I had no choice, otherwise your dear sister would have ended up dead. I have but saved her life. Chen Xiang heaved a sigh as he continued. To tell you the truth, I was so embarrassed. Said at that time. You were embarrassed, said. Lu Menjie looked at him with contempt. She also had no idea as to what were Hua Xiangyue's intentions were, however, she knew that Hua Xiangyue wasn't someone sinister. Over many years, Hua Xiangyue had helped her many times. Had it not been for Hua Xiangyue, perhaps she would not have been able to cross so many nirvana tribulations. Caressing those slim and slender legs of Lu Menjie over the chiffon, Chen Xiang smiled. I want to look for the white tiger divine weapon. Aren't you curious what that thing looked like? Of course I am curious. It's just that you, little rascal, have been busier than me. I never found the opportunity to travel with you together. Lu Menjie picked herself up from Chen Xiang's embrace. As the topmost refiner of the Qinwu mainland, she was most interested in these divine weapons. Chen Xiang broke into a smile and said, When we return, I will give you that refiner's scroll. If I give it to you now, I am worried that you will be completely engrossed in it and would not even think about leaving. Lu Menjie gave a fierce look to Chen Xiang before she rushed into a room, where she started dressing, preparing to depart with Chen Xiang. Chapter 466 Fire God Shrine. Chapter 466 Fire God Shrine. Hua Xiangyue quickly changed into a more convenient white tie. Chen Xiang noticed that he was just like Hua Xiangyue, who liked to hold chest tightly when wearing a tight, which made him feel very distressed. Xiangyue also likes that. Aren't you afraid of being tightened too much to get hurt? Chen Xiang curiously asked, but the reply he received was indeed a blank eye from Lu Menjie. It can't hurt, you can rest assured. Lu Menjie snapped. Chen Xiang chuckled. Where did you hide Xian and Yulan? I miss them so much. They're all focused on cultivation now, especially Yulan. She said that she will compete with you once she leaves the seclusion. This girl really wants to beat you. Lu Menjie sighed and said. Chen Xiang shrugged his shoulders. Let's go. The location of the white tiger divine weapon was in the direction of carefree immortal sea. After Chen Xiang and Lu Menjie confirmed their direction, they guessed that the divine weapon was within a large whirlpool of the ocean. However, it was merely their guess, and they could only confirm it when they got there. Lu Menjie took out the jade lotus frisbee and carried Chen Xiang away from the divine weapon palace. After leaving the divine weapon palace, Lu Menjie quickened the speed of the jade lotus frisbee, while Chen Xiang felt comfortable lying on top of it and sucked the charming fragrance of Lu Menjie's body. After 2 hours, the jade lotus frisbee flew up to the clouds, and Chen Xiang began to become unsure of his honesty. Just as Chen Xiang's hand was about to reach out, Lu Menjie abruptly stood up. She stopped her flying plate and looked in a certain direction with an extremely solemn expression. What's wrong? Chen Xiang hurriedly asked. When he saw Lu Menjie's reaction, he knew that something important must have happened. It's an urgent message from Gu Dongchen, which is usually used to gather the sect's headmasters. He mentioned the Fire God Shrine in his message. It seems like the people of the Fire God Shrine have arrived at the mortal martial world. Lu Menger's voice was icy cold. She knew that the Fire God Shrine was specifically looking for people who possessed fire spirits, but she wasn't afraid. From Elder Dan, Chen Xiang learned that this group was extremely abominable and powerful, but why would they come to the mortal martial world? You go first on yourself. You shouldn't have any problems with your current strength, do you? Lu Menger said. I'd like to see the people from the Fire God Shrine too. Lu Menger firmly rejected. No, you're too weak now, you can't hide your fire soul. It'll be very troublesome. If those people observe it, you should escape this in carefree immortal sea first. Seeing that Lu Menger was so serious, Chen Xiang couldn't help it. Elder Dan was originally from the Violet Moon world, and he came to mortal martial world to escape from Fire God Shrine. Strength of Elder Dan was strong then, and Fire God Shrine was very powerful for him. However, the strongest guy in mortal martial world is Huang Jintian from the true martial realm. To keep in a low profile, Chen Xiang didn't fly with the vermilion bird flame wings, but jumping up from the mountain forest below, while Lu Menger also took the fastest speed she could get to reach the divine martial palace. Elder Dan had said that the hands of the Fire God Shrine wouldn't reach here, but they did, which would probably bring a lot of disasters to the mortal martial world, whereas Su Meiyao and Bai Yuyu must know something about the Fire God Shrine. Sister Meiyan, Sis Yuyu, you must know something. Now that they're here, so it's fine to tell me. Chen Xiang stated. The Fire God Shrine is a large force on the heavenly realm, as well as the only medicine giant in the heavenly realm. We only know that this Fire God Shrine has a very positive image. We are still not sure that if they are the organization that especially plunder the fire spirit. Bai Yuyu said. Elder Dan fled to this place to escape from them, but now Elder Dan is very strong, so he shouldn't have to fear them, not to mention my master is here. Chen Xiang was extremely worried about this, because Elder Dan, Lu Menger and himself all had fire spirit. Su Meiyao said, the Fire God Shrine is indeed very strong. However, in the heavenly realm, the strongest is merely the one who is able to pass the nirvana tribulation. But don't forget that all the Fire God Shrine in the mortal world can communicate with the heavenly realm. They have many powerful martial arts and knowledge. Just like the King's Shrine that has started cultivating its influence sphere in the mortal martial world. However, the King's Shrine has just begun, but the Fire God Shrine has been existing since very ancient time. It spreads throughout the world. Now that they've arrived here, they probably got sent from other worlds. This was the strength of the Fire God Shrine, because behind him was a powerful force of heavenly realm. Although the resources needed to be sought in mortal world, they could definitely make many outstanding martial artists and Dan refiners with the knowledge and martial arts they mastered. Lu Menger, I stop you from going for your own wellness. If that Fire God Shrine really is that kind of powerful appearance, I'm sure they will do something against the true martial sect once they know that you have Tai Chi subduing dragon exercise. Such a power that spreads over multiple worlds don't even dare to attack the whole world, not mention a single sect. Bai Yuyu said in cold. Fight against a world. The mortal martial world was a very large realm. However, Chen Xiang didn't doubt what Bai Yuyu has said. It seems like I have to hide for a while. Chen Xiang sucked in a deep breath. If he wanted to hide, he could guarantee that no one in the world would ever be able to find him. It was a bird task for him with help of Long Shui and the divine techniques he has cultivated. He used to escape from hundreds of divine path warriors. Of course, he had an Luo Tiandor, which was also a perfect weapon to escape. Chen Xiang didn't know why Gu Dongchen was calling on giants of these sects, but he was certain that the Fire God Shrine would come. Otherwise, Gu Dongchen would not know anything about the Fire God Shrine. He hadn't been running for long in the forest when he heard a faint dragon's roar. Although it was faint, it was still quite frightening. "It is a dragon!" Long Shui screamed and scrambled out of the left arm of Chen Xiang. The voice came from far away. The dragon is not in its senses, and its voice does have even the slightest bit of vitality. It should be controlled, but this is just a low-grade dragon. Long Shui frowned and said, with displeasure full of her face, "This guy lost all the face of us dragons. He even gets it self-controlled." Chen Xiang said, "Could it be one in the primordial Holy Land?" Long Shui shook her head and said, "Absolutely not. I remember the sound. The dragon's voice was made under stimulation. Seems like it has been controlled by someone with a hard approach. Could it be brought here by the Fire God Shrine?" Chen Xiang immediately thought of this, which surprised him internally. It's quite possible. The Fire God Shrine is in conflicts with dragons in the heavenly realm. If they find those dragons that have just evolved in the mortal world, they would definitely attack them. Although the dragons are powerful, humans can still defeat them by using formations or siege, Su Meiyao said. Chapter 467 Mysterious Whirlpool. Chapter 467 Mysterious Whirlpool. If that Fire God Shrine really came from another world, it must have a very powerful transmission array that could move the entire Fire God Shrine along with a dragon. Chen Xiang took out the Luo Tian door and asked Long Shui to perform the God Traveling in the Nine Heavens technique to determine a target point near Carefree Immortal Sea. Then, he began to rotate the rings on the disc. After the SPAC gate opened, Chen Xiang entered it and arrived at place where he heard sound of ocean waves and smell the ocean's aura, after which his suppressed heart earlier became much relaxed. He arrived at the sea, where there were rocks all over the place. He sat on a rock and looked at the endless sea and blue sky, with sea breeze blowing on his face. He didn't go to the Carefree Immortal Sea, but waited for Lu Menger. He wondered whether she could catch on him. Did the Fire God Shrine exist 100,000 years ago? Chen Xiang asked. If the Fire God Shrine in the mortal realm specifically engaged on plundering other people's fire souls, Chen Xiang would not allow such a power remain in the mortal realm, otherwise he would be targeted by this Fire God Shrine soon or later. For example, if the Fire God Shrine knew that he had the Tai Chi subduing dragon exercise, he would be in a big trouble. No, the Fire God Shrine was established after the Great War of the Three Realms. However, its headquarters is in the heavenly realm, so no matter how ancient the forces of mortals are, they can't defeat it. Bai Yu said. Chen Xiang picked up a rock and threw it towards the surging ocean. If the Fire God Shrine dares to come find me, I won't let him get through it. As Su Meiyao saw Chen Xiang having such a resolution, she was slightly shocked. Oh? Do you dare to attack the Fire God Shrine? If the branch of Fire God Shrine here is destroyed, other Fire God Shrines will be sent here. Bai Yu also said in astonishment, if you truly destroy a Fire God Shrine in the mortal world, if the news spread to the heavenly realm, then you will be against the Fire God Shrine on the heaven, which means you will encounter a lot of troubles when you go to the heavenly realm. Chen Xiang smiled faintly. There is nothing to worry about. Since the Great War of the Three Realms is about to breaking out, the more Fire God Shrine coming here, the better it is. The Great War of the Three Realms would be a huge mess in the future. If too much Fire God Shrine were to gather in this world, it would only be a target for attack, and that would be our chance to get rid of it. I'm just talking now. You will know it when the time comes. Chen Xiang pulled off his clothes and jumped into the sea, waiting for Lu Menger to come. He waited until dawn the next day, but Lu Menger didn't come, so he had to go to Carefree Immortal Sea alone. The Carefree Immortal Sea was comprised of numerous large and small islands. It relied on the sea to develop, which means it also had a ability to explore the oceans. Chen Xiang turned into a fish and quickly headed towards Carefree Immortal Sea. He had long since become familiar with the terrain before he came this time. The whirlpool appears every once in a while. Could it be an entrance to a profound realm? I wonder if anyone has been inside before. Chen Xiang was a bit worried. He was afraid that the White Tiger divine weapon would be taken away. In just 3 days that he swam to the islands of Carefree Immortal Sea. He casually boarded an island and asked about the time of the whirlpool. There were many small islands here, each one of which would be another one at a distance not far from here. It was spread throughout a large area. Chen Xiang estimated that there was at least one of the size of the king's mainland, while there was one city in each of the small island. There were quite a number of outsiders arriving every day at Carefree Immortal Sea. Moreover, all the people in the Carefree Immortal Sea migrated from the Qinwu continent. Chen Xiang speculated that those people were appealed by Xiao Ziliang through some methods, and it became a highly flourising area after thousands of years of construction. Carefree Immortal Sea must have some very unique resources. Otherwise, it wouldn't be able to cultivate such a powerful force in a short amount of time. After a long time of asking about the small island, Chen Xiang inquired about the matter of the whirlpool. The locals met with fear, and most of them did not answer him. Could it be that the terrifying whirlpool concealed some secrets? Why do they all seem to see a ghost when I ask them about it? Chen Xiang felt hopeless in his mind. He casually found a hotel and asked for a room. After the waiter led Chen Xiang into the room and was about to leave, Chen Xiang hurriedly stopped him. "Wait." The waiter was delighted. He knew that some people were very generous and always gave him some tip. He hastily turned around with a smile on his face and bent over Chen Xiang in the air. "Sir, can I help you?" the waiter asked in a smile. Chen Xiang first took out 10 crystal stones and played them in his hand. Then, he whispered, "I want to ask you something. If you can tell me, then it's yours." The waiter nodded quickly. "I'm going to tell you everything I know. Then firstly, I want to know something about the nearby whirlpool. Why were others so scared when I asked them?" Chen Xiang abruptly grabbed the waiter's hand, because when he spoke of the whirlpool, the waiter's face was completely pale. The waiter wanted to shout out, but he knew that Chen Xiang must be a powerful martial artist. Chen Xiang took out a large pile of crystal stones. There were hundreds of them. He placed them on the bed and said in a deep voice, "Don't worry, I just want to know about that big whirlpool. Tell me, then it's yours, and there's absolutely no one who would know what you've told me." The waiter looked at the crystal stones and nodded his head. After Chen Xiang let go of him, he said in a low voice, "King Carefree doesn't allow us to talk about this matter. It was forbidden to talk for a few years. Once the Carefree Palace knows about it, they will send people to conduct a massacre. There was one time that many people in a city talking about it in public place, then the entire city was slaughtered." When Chen Xiang heard this, he immediately understood why Body answered him and avoided him away when he asked. It turned out that talking of that would cause the entire city to be butchered. King Carefree was naturally Xiao Ziliang, and Carefree Palace was the core of the Carefree Immortal Sea. The whirlpool must contain a huge secret that Xiao Ziliang had to use such a brutal method to prohibit stories of the whirlpool from being leaked. "Where is the big whirlpool?" Chen Xiang hastily said. "It's next to a small island, but the whirlpool hasn't appeared yet. It occurs every other month, and every time it's going to appear, the small island will be under strict regulation and no one is allowed to go to the sea." The waiter told Chen Xiang the name and location of the island, and he hurriedly left the hotel after he knew the location of the big whirlpool. It took him several days to reach the island. There were quite a few people on it, and it was very prosperous. There were many martial artists on it, all of which were strong. Of course, Chen Xiang wouldn't wait to get there until the whirlpool appeared. Otherwise, he would encounter those Nirvana realm martial artists. Now, he transformed into a fish and swam towards the location of the whirlpool. Chapter 468 Fighting Below the Sea. Chapter 468 Fighting Below the Sea. Chen Xiang swam in the sea for a long time, then the sea suddenly became rough and turbulent. Thunder roared in the sky as gusts of wind blew up, creating fierce waves. Is that the prelude of a big whirlpool? At this moment, Chen Xiang felt a suction force that sucked all the seawater around him into a certain place. Not willing to get in the big whirlpool right now, he hurriedly jumped out of the sea and turned back to a human figure. A stream of air gushed out from his feet, propelling his body into the air. In order to stabilize his body in the wind, he released the wind force of Azure Dragon True Qi, which allowed him to fuse with the wind and fly forward. Suddenly, Chen Xiang realized that a gravitational force suddenly erupted from the front, causing the clouds and the wind in the sky to be pulled over. At this moment, the sky was dark, while flashes that erupted from time to time illuminated the sea that was turbulent and terrifying. Suddenly, Chen Xiang saw a whirlpool on the surface of the sea, not far from him. The whirlpool was small in the beginning, only about hundreds of meters wide, but it gradually expanded to thousands and the thousands meters. Is that the big whirlpool? Chen Xiang could see that the dark clouds in the sky suddenly turned into a pillar of lightning that carried a stream of air and was dragged into the middle of whirlpool along with the waves. Long Shui said, "The big whirlpool is absorbing the surrounding spirit qi. It is gathering a very strong energy under the sea. I think that the entrance to the White Tiger Profound Realm should be at the bottom of the sea, and it is necessary to absorb such a huge amount of spirit qi to make enough energy to open the Pa-S Sageway to the Profound Realm." Chen Xiang used all his force to keep himself floating in the air and not being sucked into the whirlpool. At the same time, he approached to the whirlpool slowly. He intended to know how to enter the seabed. After the whirlpool devoured spirit qi for a while, it suddenly stopped sucking, but the whirlpool still kept spinning frantically. Just at that time, Chen Xiang saw a black hole in the middle of the whirlpool in the air, from which a light occasionally appeared up. "Get in it quickly!" Long Shui shouted. Chen Xiang also knew that it was a chance to get in. Suddenly, a burst of flames erupted from his feet, following by a wave of explosion, blasting out a burst of flames. Chen Xiang took advantage of the power of explosion to fly from the air and directly get into the black hole in the middle of the whirlpool. After he got in with his head down, he only saw that a barren wasteland below. It was more like an uninhabited island, because it was surrounded by seawater. However, this island was surrounded by a force that prevented sea water from flowing in. Chen Xiang quickly landed on the island at the seabed. The island was huge and covered by a powerful protective barrier that could stop the water from entering, while the bottom of the whirlpool was just above the island. Suddenly, Chen Xiang sensed a tremendous amount of tyrannical spirit qi coming from above, which caused him to hurriedly fly in a certain direction. His speed had reached a limit, and not after a while that he got far away from the area where the tyrannical spirit qi was striking down. Although the island was under the sea, it was not dark, but just a bit dim. Chen Xiang could see the tyrannical spirit qi striking through the opening of the island, along with waves of flashes, after which the spirit qi immediately dispersed. It seems like a few more days are needed to gather enough energy to open the game of Profound Realm. Bai Yu said. Now that they'd been certain that there was indeed a profound realm on the island below the sea, it was quite likely that it was the White Tiger Profound Realm. Previously, when Chen Xiang and Lu Menjie gathered the three divine weapons together, they could clearly sense that there was something around the carefree immortal sea that was calling them. It was a very delicate feeling, which made Lu Menjie and him to be sure that the White Tiger divine weapon must be in that direction. We got company. There are 3 humans. Long Shui warned Qin Xiang. There were humans down there. Qin Xiang was astonished. He knew that he had been discovered by someone when he came down from above, and those people were Russ. Hi+ing over here. It was a plain ground down there, without hills or forest, therefore Qin Xiang had no place to hide himself. How about their strength? Just as Qin Xiang asked it, 3 people appeared around him and sieged him inside. Qin Xiang knew the strength of these 3 people without response from Long Shui. Judging from their true qi, Qin Xiang guessed that they were at the middle or late stage of the spirit martial realm. What shocked Qin Xiang even more was that all the 3 people were wearing golden robes. 2 of them were middle-aged and 1 was old. From their adornment, Qin Xiang was certain that they were from the Holy Light sect. Men of the Holy Light sect had arrived here early, which made Qin Xiang speculating that the Holy Light sect and Carefree Immortal Sea were in a collusion. Although Carefree Immortal Sea refused to join the Holy Light sect at previous time of the Hero A.S. assembly, no one knew what was in Xiao Ziliang's mind. He almost became the headmaster of the Divine Martial Palace, and now, he established the Carefree Immortal Sea only to experience the feeling as a headmaster. The difference was that he wanted to make the Carefree Immortal Sea even more powerful and becoming the biggest sect in the King's mainland, so it was not out of expectation that he would align with the Holy Light sect. I didn't expect that the well-known Qin Xiang, the #1 youth martial artist and alchemist of the mortal martial realm, would be here. The old man from the Holy Light sect expressed a stiff, cold smile, with his eyes filling with killing intent. So as the other 2 Holy Light sect martial artists, they all knew that the headmaster of Holy Light sect hated Divine Martial Palace badly, and Qin Xiang was also a thorn in the light of the Holy Light sect. They would obtain a big reward from the sect if they killed him. At this moment, Qin Xiang was under a huge pressure, because the 3 of them were all very strong. He would not be afraid if engaging in a one-on-one fight, but he did not even have a chance of winning if the 3 came together. Moreover, it was the bottom of the sea. They killed Qin Xiang and cleaned it up, so that no one would ever know what happened. Staring at those eyes with killing intent, Qin Xiang also grew up an intention of killing within his mind. If someone wanted to kill him, he must not leave him alive. Now! The old man shouted. The 3 martial artists attacked at the same time. Each of them had a sharp longsword in hands, and a strong true qi was infilled into the sword, causing the longswords to emit a buzzing sound that pierced through the air and stroked towards Qin Xiang with fierce killing intent, just like a bolt of lightning. When the 3 martial prac. 1. Pioneers of the Holy Light sect started attacking, waves of intense killing intent erupted from their bodies, which indicated that they were vicious and merciless killers, and they would never be lenient. Qin Xiang had long since been ready. As he saw the 3 men attacking simultaneously, his body trembled and conjured a black tortoise Luotian cover. However, the true qi condensing on the 3 swords was extremely ferocious. As the swords stabbed into his black tortoise Luotian cover together, a strong vibration was generated and broke up the armor. All of these 3 people were stronger than Qin Xiang, they were attacking at the same time. Qin Xiang had no way but to retreat. The 3 martial prac. 1. Pioneers of the Holy Light sect were secretly delighted when they saw the cover of Qin Xiang being pierced. They originally thought that they could penetrate through Qin Xiang's body, but they suddenly felt that the sword tip touched something very hard and preventing them from achieving it. Although Qin Xiang's black tortoise adamant armor protected him from being pierced through by the 3 swords, the power still infilled into his body, which caused his internal organs to constrict, and he spitted out a mouthful of blood. "I will be back!" Qin Xiang roared furiously. His voice was like a blade carrying a penetrative, killing intent. Suddenly, a burst of white light erupted out from his body. Tyrannical and furious dragon force exploded out of his body and formed an extremely strong energy wave that shook the 3 of them apart. To use the dragon force in a serious injury made Chen Xiang spitting out another mouthful of blood. However, now he got the chance to flee. Leave it to me. Long Shui sighed and turned into a white light enveloping Chen Xiang's body, then flied towards the exit of the island. Chapter 469 Making a Hard Decision. Chapter 469 Making a Hard Decision. After the 3 apprentices of the Holy Light sect were shocked out to fly, the blood and qi within Chen Xiang's body also surged. After all, Chen Xiang tried his best to unleash the true qi of his entire body as dragon force. That was directly infused into their bodies, and made his mouth dripping with blood. While they were exclaiming about Chen Xiang's strength, they looked at the white light that was flying towards the exit. Just as they were about to catching up, the white light flashed past and flew out. At the same time, a tyrannical spirit qi surged in and sealed the exit temporarily, preventing them catching on. Right now Chen Xiang has not even a little bit of strength. He was heavily injured and risked his life to unleash all of his strength to repel the 3 people. Otherwise Long Shui would not have the chance to bring him away. If Holy Light Sect could send 3 of such strong people here, then there must be a lot of good items inside the White Tiger Profound Realm. Bai Yu said, "There should be some good items, but I do not think that the Carefree Immortal Sea is able to hold all of it. Inside the Profound Realm is very dangerous. There the Carefree Immortal Sea sold it to the Holy Light Church to exchange something else." Su Meiyao said. Now that Chen Xiang was able to escape safely, they all let out a sigh of relief. Long Shui was currently carrying Chen Xiang to fly to the distant area of the sea. They could not return to the islands in Carefree Immortal Sea because Chen Xiang was exposed and both the Carefree Immortal Sea and Holy Light Sect would chase him. The Nirvana Realm. Long Shui was shocked and quickly ran into the water. Although Chen Xiang's physical body was seriously wounded, he still had very good consciousness and magic power, with which he controlled his immobile hand to take out a piece of H.E.L. Ganoderma and swallowed it. Fortunately, he had the holy medicine such as H.E.L. Ganoderma that could heal injuries quickly. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to recover from numerous injuries quickly over the course of years. Xiao Ziliang is an expert of talisman manufacture, so the people from Holy Light Sect must have a messenger talisman. Seems like if I must take Lu Menger along with me if want to enter the White Tiger Profound Realm again. Chen Xiang was able to speak. He was wrapped in the light that Long Shui released and advanced stealthily in the deep ocean. The sea water couldn't penetrate in and his speed of progress was very fast. Su Meiyao laughed. Don't forget that only you can obtain the White Tiger Divine Weapon. The hiding place will definitely be very safe. Otherwise, the Carefree Immortal Sea would have long since taken it away. This was something that caused Chen Xiang to relax as well. He clenched his fists tightly. The people from Holy Light Sect wanted to kill him, and he would definitely make them to pay. This B.A.S.T. A.R.D. Xiao Ziliang even dares to unite with the Holy Light Sect. Chen Xiang fiercely said. That's a profound realm, so there must be treasures inside. You can announce it to the outside world. That might even draw the Fire God Shrine. Bai Yu said. A light flashed through Chen Xiang's eyes. That was indeed a good idea. He needed to recuperate for a period of time, and Lu Menger would definitely enter the White Tiger Profound Realm at the very first moment then. Long Shui chuckled. Leave it to me. Chen Xiang was brought to a deserted island by Long Shui. The island was far away from Carefree Immortal Sea, and no one would come in a short run. Long Shui waved her beautiful hand in a direction. A ray of white light flied out from her hand and vanished. What is that? Chen Xiang asked in curiosity. One of the 72 transformations. I can quickly move my magic power across to Qinwu continent. Once I get there, my magic power will turn me into a person, then I could control the person to spread the news of White Tiger Profound Realm. Long Shui smiled. Chen Xiang, Su Meiyao, and Bai Yuyu all sighed in amazement. This technique was indeed very mysterious. Fantastic, right? This is the wondrous use of divine abilities. It's even more powerful that you can create a dragon, then let it to destroy a continent. Long Shui smirked and said. Chen Xiang previously thought that only 72 transformations and furious dragon strike were too few for him, but now he knew that there were many things within these two abilities. Without Long Shui's guidance, he would have no way of learning the power of his magic power or cultivating divine force. The 9-Dragon Divine Technique is also a powerful divine ability, and it's enough for you to cultivate for the rest of your life. All of the things I gave you right now are just superficial. You would know the formidable powers of those divine abilities once you learn them all. Long Shui laughed out loud. Chen Xiang sat on the beach and ate another piece of H.E.L. Ganoderma. However, this didn't allow him to recover in a short period of time. Only now did he realize that his injuries were severe, and his internal tibia was in a heavy wound. These 3B.A.S.T.A.R.D.S. I must let them to die. I must make the Holy Light sect to pay. Chen Xiang said in a low voice. It's impossible for you to raise your cultivation now, but you can increase your physical body and magic power. Long Shui could feel the anger in Chen Xiang's heart. After increasing your physical body, you will have a carrier to keep a large amount of divine sense, then the magic power would naturally dissipate. I know that both my body and my divine sense must be improved in balance. However, these two are the hardest to increase. Chen Xiang heaved a sigh of relief. Long Shui flashed her eyes as she smiled. I know a way to make you improving quickly. You should know the pain that you need to endure in a short period of time in order to raise your physical body. Of course, Chen Xiang knew, but he wasn't scared at all. As long as he could make him go out of his way, he would like to take anything. How? Chen Xiang hastily inquired. You have the Black Tortoise Strengthening Technique, don't you? You elevated 3 levels when you entered the sect. Now you should think about how to cultivate next? Long Shui asked. Chen Xiang hurriedly took out the Black Tortoise Body Strengthening Technique and read through it. He was now in the 14th level of the Immortal Devil Body. If he wanted to cultivate to higher levels, then he would encounter even more demanding requirements. It didn't take long for Chen Xiang to find a method to cultivate between the 10th and 20th levels. During the process of refining the body with fire, circulate true qi in the body in a specific manner according to the formula. After a long period of cultivating, the physical body will be strengthened. This is the syllabus from the 10th to 20 levels. The next was the formula. The problem is that the method requires a very strong flame that could burn me to die cause. But there would be less troubles since we do not need fused iron. Chen Xiang felt a headache. Lu Menger helped him the last time he cultivated, and it would be difficult for her to burn his body for a long time. You can't stop when you burn, and the fire must be increased gradually based on your endurance. Your sister Menger must not have the heart to do this, and she fused with the purple fire soul, which would definitely conflict with your heavenly fire soul. The only one that can help you in Chenwu continent is the primordial fire beast under the Yuming abyss, Long Shui said. She already knew the content of Black Tortoise Strengthening Technique. Chen Xiang was startled. His heavenly fire soul was given to him by the primordial fire beast. The ancient beast was indeed very strong, while Chen Xiang had an agreement with it to save it out. Chapter 470 Guidance of the Divine Weapon. Chapter 470 Guidance of the Divine Weapon. Chen Xiang shook his head. There should be a formation technique that prevented him from gaining his power, isn't it? You have powerful items like Luo Tiandor, don't you? Long Shui smiled and asked, You're so dumb. Chen Xiang's eyes lit up. He laughed out loud and said, I really didn't expect it. The Luo Tiandor could open A.S.P.A.C. gate, which wouldn't be constrained by formations. Chen Xiang used that technique to pass across a powerful formation in the primordial Holy Land and entered the ruins in which the dragon was imprisoned. Long Shui waited for Chen Xiang to regain some of his true qi. Only after he could open the Luotian door did she attach herself to Chen Xiang. Beside, she had long since used the God traveling in 9 heavens technique to confirm the location of Yuming Abyss. The God traveling in 9 heavens technique allowed his divine sense to fly very fast to a distance place or even through a world. However, Chen Xiang did not have enough magic power right now to use this move. After the SPAC gate opened, Chen Xiang stepped through it and arrived at the bottom of the Yuming Abyss. Moreover, it was in front of the mountain cave that imprisoned the primordial fire beast. This caused the primordial fire beast to let out a roar, and then, a voice rang out from within Chen Xiang's mind. "Do you finally get the strength to let me out?" When Chen Xiang reached the bottom of the cave, he once again saw this colossus. He still felt extremely shocked and terrified. "Not right now," Chen Xiang said while spreading his hands. You wasted my pleasure." The primordial flame beast roared again, with enormous fire blazing around it, which made it furious. Chen Xiang hurriedly said, "I know a few Nirvana realm martial artists. I can let you to save you, but I don't know if that works. No, I need the heavenly fire soul or a fire soul stronger than it to save me. Otherwise, no one from the heavenly realm could save me," the primordial fire beast said. Chen Xiang sighed and said, "I came to find you for a favor." Long Shui also came out of Chen Xiang's body at that moment. She looked at a small tree behind the primordial fire beast. That was the Earth's core divine tree. Chen Xiang still had quite a few of the fruits, though being cut it into pieces. Because cultivating an Earth's core divine tree wasn't a simple matter, Chen Xiang kept the fruit nuclei and waited for planting it in a suitable place. After that, Chen Xiang explained the matter to the primordial fire beasts that he wished to get a hand. "I can help you, but I got a better plan." The primordial fire beast looked at Long Shui and snorted coldly. He really disliked the people from the royal dragon family, but now Long Shui, a little girl, was considering of acquiring its Earth's core divine fruit. "Do you got a better way?" "I just thought of that method," Long Shui said in disgust. "Little bulls. Hi+T dragon, my methods is much better than your." The primordial fire beast sneered. Chen Xiang was slightly excited as he hastily asked, "Then tell us." The primordial fire beast said, "One side of this Yuming abyss directs to the Earth's core divine tree, which is my place, but do you know where the other side direct?" Chen Xiang and Long Shui shook their heads. They had always been curious about this matter. "I don't know either, but I feel it should be a road leading to the core of the Earth. Probably the path is too small for me to notice it back then." Into the Earth's core. This made Chen Xiang and Long Shui to be slightly excited. That was the core of a world and the most mysterious place of it. Chen Xiang heard that Earth's core was the key for a world to maintain its operation. However, even someone like Huang Jintian couldn't find the core of the Earth, and Huang Jintian had always been regretting about it. Not everyone could come to the bottom of Yuming, even including Huang Jintian. Only Chen Xiang, who had the black tortoise armament armor, was able to come, so this place was very safe. After Chen Xiang arrived here, he made a mark on Luotian door, so that he could hide here the next time he dodged. It's hard for humans to come to this place. The reason you're able to come is because you have black tortoise armament armor. This is absolutely not a coincidence. The primordial fire beast said. The black tortoise profound realm must be nearby, and now Chen Xiang knew about it. The Earth's core must be very hot. Even the strongest humans in the mortal world will be melted there. But you have black tortoise armament armor, so you should go there. There might be something waiting for you. Chen Xiang nodded his head. After saying farewell to primordial fire beast, he hurriedly ran towards the other end of the abyss. "Little fart dragon, pay attention to the surroundings. My injuries are not healed yet." Chen Xiang exhorted, and Long Shui gave him a response. Last time, Long Shui discovered that there was a large amount of living organisms underneath. However, she did not fly to the other direction as Chen Xiang was attracted by the roar of the primordial fire beast. There might be something strange at the place where he was going. There's a large group of them ahead of us. It should be some beasts, and their strength is at stage 2 or 3 of the true martial realm. Long Shui said. Stage 2 or 3 of true martial realm. If it was the first time Chen Xiang arrived, he would not be able to handle them. But now, beasts in such levels were nothing but ants to him. With a thought coming out of his mind, a green light bursted out from his right hand, and the azure dragon subduing Devil's Saber suddenly appeared in his hand and emitted a green light. After he infilled true qi to the saber, its blade lightly vibrated and emitted a humming sound. As the beating of Chen Xiang's intention of kill, waves of fierce killing intent dissipated from the blade. A series of low and deep roars came out of bottom of dark abyss. All sorts of sounds were heard, making listeners scared, while Chen Xiang did not slow down, but plussing straight through it. Suddenly, a red light flashed out, and Chen Xiang saw a beast with red eyes coming over. Entire body of the beast was covered in hard armor, and it looked like a crocodile. Its body was large and its limbs were thick, with its entire mouth full of sharp fangs. It seems like that big mouth could crunch everything. Uigno blee beast! Chen Xiang shouted coldly as he swung his saber towards the creature. The enormous energy surged through the air, and the ferocious true qi surged out. Just like breaking bamboo, the blade easily broke the hard armor of the beast apart like breaking a chunk of tofu. In the blink of an eye, the aggressive beast was cut in half by Chen Xiang, and green blood gushed out from it. After he slashed one, another beast flew over. These beasts all looked the same. Chen Xiang certainly wasn't afraid. He hurriedly chopped off with the sharp's saber in his hand. The azure light formed saber qi like countless threads, constant eye, tooting a net with green lights and advancing forward. As it said through, the beasts were cut into chunks by the green maid of saber qi. Within a very short period, the strange beast on the road had turned into chunks of fleas. Plus there were quite a few of these strange beasts along the way. Chen Xiang was thankful that he hadn't come this far when he came, but now, these strange beasts had been slashed into several pieces by him very easily and were unable to pose a threat on him. Killing these strange beasts only improved some killing intent of Chen Xiang's intention to kill. Chapter 471 Earth's Core. Chapter 471 Earth's Core. Chen Xiang rushed for straight 3 days, along which he killed many strange beasts. When he reached the end, he didn't see anything but a stone wall. Did I ignore something along the way here? Chen Xiang said it in doubt. Long Shui had used the traveling in 9 heavens to wander around here on the way, but she did not notice anything. Beneath the abyss was a straight and wide sage. At this moment, Chen Xiang slowly walked back and paid attention to both sides and the ground. If there was a small hole on the ground, he would definitely be able to find it. He walked back for 2 days, until Long Shui suddenly shouted, "I found a small cave." The small cave was right on top of the stone wall. As Chen Xiang walked over it, he saw a small cave on the stone wall near the ground. "I'll use my divine sense to see what's inside." Long Shui released her spirit sense and entered the small cave. This small cave is very shallow. It did not take long to reach the end, but there are many spirit patterns around it. "I wonder what it is for," Long Shui explained with depression. She originally thought that Chen Xiang would be able to go to the Earth's core from the small cave as he transformed into a mouse. Chen Xiang got down on his stomach and touched the surroundings of the small cave with his finger. He discovered that this small cave was perfectly round, while many mpy things were the cave wall, and it took him a while to ascertain that these were spirit patterns. Could it be a keyhole? Bai Yu said. Her words reminded Qin Xiang. He hurriedly took out the Azure Dragon Subduing Saber. Although the Azure Dragon Subduing Saber was square, it could change into any shape according to Qin Xiang's mind since it was fused with Dragon Soul. He turned the Azure Dragon Subduing Saber into a cylindrical shape that was about the same size as the small cave, so it could just be inserted into the hole. We must try. If we make it, then there must be something in the Earth's core waiting for me to obtain. Qin Xiang took a deep breath slightly. He was a little excited. As he stabbed the cylindrical Azure Dragon Subduing Saber into the hole, he suddenly felt a suction force. Then a light bursted out of the hole and a square cave suddenly appeared on the ground beside him. It was a staircase leading to somewhere below. It made Qin Xiang being extremely excited, so was Su Meiyao and Bai Yuyu, because they did not know what kind of state the Earth's core was, and now they had a chance to see it. There might be something waiting for Qin Xiang to get. Qin Xiang pulled out the Azure Dragon Subduing Saber and walked down the stairs, after which the top immediately closed, but Qin Xiang heard a beast roar. It was the roar of the primordial fire beast. It also became excited as it saw that Qin Xiang found that path. Go to the core of the earth and cut off that tree. Then let's see how the big lion shows off. Long Shui snorted and said. She kept an idea on the primordial fire beast's earth's core fruit, but the primordial fire beast didn't even give her a single glance, which made her mad. Qin Xiang shook his head and smiled as he walked down the stairs. This was the staircase spinning downward, and it was very deep. It took a long time for Long Shui to conduct the ascertainment until she realized that something was blocking below. The Yuming abyss was already deep enough, and now that it headed to somewhere even deeper, Qin Xiang felt that the bottom of the stairs should be very close to the Earth's core. Haven't you heard about anything in the Earth's core? Qin Xiang asked. I only heard that it is very hot, and there is formidable flame. Su Meiyao answered, while Bai Yuyu and Long Shui hurriedly agreed. Qin Xiang flew for 10 days on that staircase until he reached the end. However, there was a door below. Above the door wrote 4 words, Door of Earth's Core. Seeing these 4 words, Qin Xiang and his folks were incomparably excited because they were certain that the Earth's core was right behind this door. Qin Xiang pushed an open stone door, and a scalding aura salted his face, which made a man like Qin Xiang who had heavenly fire to feel a burning sensation throughout his body. It could be seen just how strong that heat was. He hurriedly released the black tortoise armament armor to protect his body. Only the armor could resist the terrifying heat wave. He was certain that even a Nirvana martial artist would find it difficult to reach the depths of the abyss. There was still a long way to go, but Qin Xiang could not bear it even at the entrance, and the situation must be worse down there. Who on earth built it? Qin Xiang was extremely puzzled, but no one could answer him. The stone door automatically closed. The temperature inside was even more terrifying, whereas Qin Xiang was fine with protection of the black tortoise armor. I don't dare to ascertain with my divine sense. The flames here are too frightening, and my divine sense would be burned out promptly after it goes out. Long Shui said in fear. Even divine sense would be burned. This caused Qin Xiang to suck in a terrified breath. He could not imagine what he would do after the black tortoise armament armor disappeared. The passageway was very dark and Qin Xiang couldn't see anything, but it was filled with a terrifying, scorching heat. Qin Xiang took out a piece of iron, and it instantly evaporated. No wonder only those with black tortoise armor could come to this place. Even a madman like Master can't come here. Qin Xiang's voice was filled with terror. Huang Jintian was the strongest in the mortal martial realm. After walking for a while, Qin Xiang suddenly saw a red dot in front of him, which made him excited. He quickened his pace and walked forward. In a short time, the small dots became more and more numerous. A cute red light flashed out from forward, and he speculated that it would not take long for him to see the Earth's core in Legends. Qin Xiang walked out of the tunnel, and he was right now on a cliff. The red light was coming out from below, and the stones here were very tough. He couldn't even cut them apart with the azure dragon's subduing saber. After all, these stones can withstand a high temperature. Looks like the Earth's core is still down. Chen Xiang stood on top of the bluish-red cliff and looked ahead. There was a very wide space in this area, at least as large as the king's mainland. Furthermore, he saw a tree trunk that was very thick and dysprosium. The trunk advanced upward and penetrated some stones. That was the Earth's core divine tree. It seems like you have to jump down, or you won't be able to see the Earth's core. Although she said so, Su Meiyao didn't want him to do that because the danger below was unknown. I will use my magic power to suspend my body and slowly descend. Chen Xiang was determined as he looked at the red light shooting out from below. He must see what there was. He knew that he was not the only one who had come here. The person who came earlier had intentionally set a trap for him to come down here to pick up something. Chen Xiang jumped down. He relied on his magic power to support his body and float up. He slowly descended, so that he would not fall into something extremely dreadful. Dazzling red lights filled in the area below. He could not see anything, or release his divine sense. It would be instantly pieced apart by the heat after being released. Chapter 472 The Earth Fire Soul. Chapter 472 The Earth Fire Soul. Right now Chen Xiang felt a little regretful. He could not know when this would end, while the temperature was already frightening enough. He was confident that all Nirvana realm cultivators would die if they came here. Only creatures like the primordial fire beast would be able to survive. Without the black tortoise armament armor, someone in your master's level would not dare to come down. Even those who are a little bit stronger than your master would not. Nevertheless, the Earth's core of the mortal martial world should not be such scary. Could there be something else underneath it? Bai Yu said. Could there be a fire soul? Su Meiyao said in surprise. The last time Chen Xiang and Lu Menjie encountered that strange fire soul, it affected a large area. If there really was a fire spirit below, it must be tremendously strong. In cognition of Chen Xiang and his fellows, the heavenly fire soul was a king among the fire spirit, and it was extremely rare. It was given to Chen Xiang by the primordial fire beast. There must be a stronger fire spirit other than the heavenly fire soul. The world is vast, and there are countless worlds. No one could be sure of everything. Bai Yu said. Chen Xiang also looked forward to this. It would be a very good news for him if he were to obtain another formidable fire soul from below. Sister Meiyao, if there is truly a fire soul, I will give it to you, he generously said. It was impossible for him to have another one. Moreover, he didn't want to experience the pain of fusing with fire soul again. Su Meiyao was very happy when she heard that. She smiled and shy and said, I don't need it now. I'm afraid I cannot not bear it. I'm sure that there will be plenty of chances to obtain a fire spirit if I follow you. It is said that the fire soul has a spiritual nature, and it could lead its owner to find other fire souls, then it could fuse other fire souls and become stronger. Chen Xiang was surprised at this. So, I can still fuse with other fire souls? Theoretically, yes, but what I've heard is that a stronger fire soul could devour a weaker one. The fire soul in the Earth's core shouldn't be any worse than the heavenly fire soul, or at least they are in the same level. It is hard to say. Although Chen Xiang was currently being protected by the black tortoise armament armor, he could still feel the scorching heat seeping into his body, which made him worried that the armor might not be able to resist if temperature below there was even higher. After 2 hours, Pius said, entire body of Chen Xiang was covered in sweat. He felt like he was about to be baked dry. However, just as he was about to speeding down, the scorching heat suddenly disappeared. What the earth is going on? Chen Xiang was startled, because he suddenly felt an indescribable cold. Although this cold caused him to shi. plus it made him feeling an indescribable heat as well. Chen Xiang told his feelings to Su Meiyao and others. This is the earth fire. Everything extreme would turn into opposite state. It seems that the heat of the earth's core has exceeded the limits of common sense. That's why it developed earth fire. If I'm not wrong, then the fire soul there must be the earth fire soul. Earth fire soul? Isn't that a fire spirit that doesn't actually but being made up by a group of old fellows? Su Meiyao asked in confusion. That's right, it's actually made up by people. But these are all deductions from the wise people using their intelligence, so it's theoretically possible, which means that the earth fire soul and the heavenly fire soul were a match. They could melt into each other, but also against each other, just like the yin-yang divine veins inside your body. If you can merge with the earth fire soul. Hearing Bai Yuyu's speculation, Chen Xiang couldn't help but feeling cold. His heart was pounding furiously. He suddenly felt an inexplicable fear, and at the same time, an extreme excitement. If you could fuse it, then that is the integration of heaven and earth, the heaven-earth fire soul. This is definitely stronger than the heavenly flame soul or the Hell fire soul. Su Meiyao took a deep breath and couldn't help being slightly excited. She and Bai Yuyu had long since known that Chen Xiang was a pervert with yin-yang divine veins. If there really was a earth fire soul underneath, then they could witness the birth of an extremely powerful figure with heaven-earth fire soul. Chen Xiang took several deep breaths and calmed himself down. Does every earth's core have a earth fire soul? It shouldn't be all that much, otherwise it won't be worth it, Su Meiyao said. The abnormal heat caused Chen Xiang to feel indescribably uncomfortable. At this moment, the heaven fire soul inside his body became extremely violent, as if it wanted to leave his body. Chen Xiang's heavenly fire soul was like encountering a great enemy, which allowed him to be even more certain that the earth fire soul was below. I see it! Chen Xiang exclaimed. He had indeed seen the earth fire soul. It was a mass of black gas that was plusing out a great amount of black gas, which then fused into red lights and turned into waves of abnormal cold and heat and dispersed in all directions. Chen Xiang saw the earth fire soul first before he saw the earth's core. He thought that the earth fire soul would be near the earth's core. He didn't know why, but after he discovered the earth fire soul, the first thought jumping out of his mind was to rush over to it. His mind was full of tyrannical consciousness, and he wanted to pierce the earth fire soul apart. It did not take long for him to figure out that his consciousness was affected by the heaven fire soul. He also unknowingly rushed out, while the black earth fire soul also flied over to him. Damn it, don't you want to give me some preparation time? Chen Xiang shouted out. It was very painful to fuse with fire soul, and it would be even worse if two fire souls were to fight and fuse together in his body. We are done, Chen Xiang whined in his heart. The earth fire soul had already crashed into his body and spread into his flesh and soul. After the earth fire soul entered his body, it was as if countless poisonous insects were biting his flesh and soul, while the heavenly fire soul and the earth fire soul were even in a conflict. Each of them wanted to devour each other in the fighting. All of this was not something that Chen Xiang could control. He could only endure the pain that was worse than death. At this time, his black tortoise armament armor was also retracted back to his body, because it was also part of his body and had to fuse into it as well. Su Meiyao and Bai Yuyu were both extremely worried. After seeing that Chen Xiang was no longer protected by the black tortoise armament armor, the two girls' faces turned deathly pale. However, Chen Xiang was not immediately eliminated by the scorching heat, but continuously falling down. The heat that erupted from Chen Xiang's body was much higher than the temperature in the Earth's core, and it also served as a protection. The heart-wrenching screams echoed in the space of the Earth's core, and the temperature became even higher due to the fusion of the two extreme fire souls. The continuously falling Chen Xiang suddenly saw a huge fireball below there, and seemed like it was made of magma. Is this the Earth's core? Chen Xiang was extremely terrified at the same time he endured the pain, because he could not control the falling of his body, and he was about to falling into that terrifying fireball. Chapter 473 The Heaven-Earth Fire Soul. Chapter 473 The Heaven-Earth Fire Soul. Chen Xiang did not get much time to think before he fell into the giant fireball. The incomparably scorching heat seeped into his body, making him to feel like he was about to melting. However, he was happy since his body was still fine, although it was very painful. The heat being radiated from fusion of the heavenly fire soul and the earth fire soul within his body was even hotter than the earth's core. Chen Xiang could do nothing but bear it. He felt that if he could master such a powerful flame in the future, he would be unimaginable strong, even hotter than the earth's core. Black tortoise body strengthening technique, now. Su Meiyao shouted. Chen Xiang's consciousness was still there, but he was unable to use the true qi within his body. He couldn't making his true qi running according to the spell on the black tortoise body strengthening technique. Even so, he still attempted to do it. Now he was in the heart of the earth, which was like a huge furnace. Incomparably hot flames were frantically destroying his body, causing him endless pain. If his spirit wasn't strong enough, he would have fainted long ago, but he could definitely not faint under such circumstances. However, it was no doubt a good opportunity to cultivate the black tortoise body strengthening technique. He was sure that as long as he could get through it, his strength would increase by a great deal. In this agony of pain, his spirit was tempered, as well as his divine soul. Chen Xiang knew that if his body was controlled by the heavenly fire soul and earth fire soul, there would be no good outcome for him in the end. He might be tortured to death. Now the two fire souls in his body were fiercely fighting, and Chen Xiang would not allow them to continue. You're both mine. Chen Xiang made his heart hardened. His magic power suddenly surged out and circulated in his body, carrying the true qi into his body to run according to the black tortoise body strengthening technique. At the same time, he urged his magic power to suppress the two fire souls, which consumed pretty a large amount of power since the two fire spirits had already melted into all of his cells. Chen Xiang knew that his magic power had extensive usages, but unfortunately, now his magic power was insufficient and he almost used it up immediately. He had to use it to suppress the two tyrannical fire souls, while simultaneously instruct his true qi to circulate within his body. Just as his magic power was about to run out, the teenager in his consciousness suddenly opened eyes. This little person was Chen Xiang's divine soul. He looked exactly the same as Chen Xiang in his teenages. He grew up from an infant and was still growing up. After the little person opened his eyes, a surge of magic power suddenly surged out from his body, making Chen Xiang to be extremely joyful. He hurriedly used the flow of magic power to conduct his cultivation, and at the same time fuse the two fire souls. After he had enough magic power, Chen Xiang felt much better now, though his body was still in incomparably pain. Now, he could only control the situation inside his body and urge the two fire souls to fuse together. The black tortoise body strengthening technique was a divine technique. It utilized a very extreme way to temper one's body and allow one's physical body to strengthen rapidly. Now, Chen Xiang could clearly feel his flesh body strengthening. The 9 circulation dragon divine technique. It is also a good time to cultivate your divine soul. Long Shui shouted. Originally, Chen Xiang was worried that his endless magic power might disappear if he circulated the 9 circulation dragon divine technique. However, since Long Shui had said this, he would definitely not be affected, so he immediately circulated his technique. 2 divine techniques, one of which for cultivating flesh body, the other for cultivating divine soul, could complement each other and product even better effects. Now, Chen Xiang felt that time passed. said very slowly, because he was indulged in endless pain. Xue, why he suddenly has so much magic power? Su Meiyao asked doubtfully. She and Bai Yuyu had always been paying attention to Chen Xiang's condition. His situation finally stabilized, which made them much more assured. I wonder why he's so lucky to comprehend the realm of boundless magic so easily. Generally, the little person appears only when he's in an urgent need of magic power. Few in the divine path can do it. Long Xue said. Judging from his current speed, he'll need at least a month to fuse the heavenly and earth fire soul. Bai Yuyu said. Chen Xiang himself knew very clear that the progress of fusion was very slow. Thinking that he would stay here for a long time, he couldn't help but shouting out loud. The earth's core was filled with the heart-wrenching screams, but after a month, his voice suddenly stopped and the earth's core calmed down again. After a short period of silence, still, a burst of arrogant laughter sounded out. A pillar of fire suddenly gushed out from the gigantic fireball in the earth's core, and Chen Xiangfei, who was in the earth's core, rushed out with a huge pair of fire wings on his back. Chen Xiang successfully merged the two fire souls. The fire souls within his body had become the heaven-earth fire soul, which, although looked like an ordinary flame, was accompanied with much stronger flame than before. Haha, the heaven-earth fire soul. U-B-A-S-T-A-R-D from the Holy Light sect, I'm coming. Chen Xiang's entire body was covered in flames as he fluttered his majestic vermilion bird fire wings and flied forward. Not bad. Your divine soul has cultivated to the figure of 18 years old, and your immortal demon body is also in stage 18, which is quite harmonious. Long Xue praised. Su Meiyao and Bai Yuyu were both happy inside. Chen Xiang's flames had become even stronger, which would help him a lot when he cultivate Dan in the future. After his soul and body had improved a lot, Chen Xiang felt that his strength was indeed much greater. Chen Xiang followed the route he had come on to return to the Pa-S Sageway beneath the abyss, then flied towards the primordial fire beast. When the primordial fire beast saw Chen Xiang, it let out a roar. It is out of my expectation that you could go to the earth's core. Just like I thought, there's an earth fire soul there. You are a lucky dude. Hee hee, it's all thanks to your advice. Chen Xiang said with a smile. Your current fire soul should be strong among all the fire souls. Of course, there's someone still stronger than you. Don't be too proud. Remember to fulfill your promise, and I will be waiting for you here. The primordial fire beast said. Chen Xiang walked out of the cave and took out the Luotian door. He confirmed his target and opened A-S-P-A-C gate. After entering the S-P-A-C gate, he came to the small island. This uninhabited island was very close to that whirlpool, and now that whirlpool had been closed. It looks like we'll have to wait a few more days. Chen Xiang couldn't help but worry. He was worried that the 3 Holy Light sect martial artists were not there. Wait 2 more days, then use your Luotian door to get in as it is about to opening. You must go in ahead of time, because now many people are waiting for the whirlpool to open, and then come in. Long Xue smiled. Only now did Chen Xiang remember that Long Xue had already released the news of the White Tiger Profound Realm. The strong forces in Qinwu continent would definitely come after they knew that there was a Profound Realm. It was almost 2 months now. Perhaps people from the other continents would also come. It should be known that a profound realm was like a treasure trove. In this era of resources shortness, it posed huge attractiveness to every sect. Chapter 474 Ambush by Heart-Penetrating Demon Eyes. Chapter 474 Ambush by Heart-Penetrating Demon Eyes. Chen Xiang took out the Luotian door and asked Long Xue to investigate the location of the island underneath the sea. He would now enter the island in secret and kill all 3 of the Holy Light sect martial artists who fought him. He guessed that the 3 men must still wait there. They could wait down below even if the whirlpool didn't show up, so that they could enter the profound realm at the first possible moment when it opened. Chen Xiang speculated that once the profound realm was closed, all people inside would have to come out, or they would be in danger. Otherwise, he wouldn't have seen 3 men from Holy Light sect waiting outside the last time he reached there. Of the 3 people from the Holy Light sect, that old man is quite powerful, so you better get rid of those 2 middle-aged men quietly at first. Su Meiyao said. Chen Xiang nodded. It was hard to ambush a strong person, now that his body and soul had risen, but not his true qi, so he still had some pressure to deal with the old man. Of course, he had the last dependence, which was the power of Long Shui. He didn't know what level of cultivation Long Shui was, but she was definitely stronger than him. After the SPAC gate opened, Chen Xiang performed his 72 transformation technique and turned into a stone in the size of a head. Then, he flew into the SPAC gate and appeared again on the seabed island. Although it was very flat, there were quite a few rocks. No one would notice if there suddenly was one more of them. Although Chen Xiang had turned to a rock, he could use his magic power to suspend himself and then move forward slowly. The island was surrounded by a powerful formation technique that prevent one from getting inside from external SPAC or reaching outside from in. If one wanted to enter or exit, he or she could only pass through the whirlpool, which opened periodically and had to get in before the strong force rushed in. Chen Xiang could see clearly under the dark seabed island. His current divine sense was much stronger. Very soon, he discovered the 3 Holy Light sect martial artists who attacked him before. These guys did not send extra people. Do they think that I need a very long time to heal my injuries? Chen Xiang secretly smiled in his heart. His injuries had healed in the earth's core long ago. The 3 martial artists of the Holy Light sect separated into 3 different positions, and they were very close to each other. Once someone came down, they could attack from 3 directions in the fastest rate. All 3 of them were sitting with their legs crossed. It seems like they were cultivating, but it was obvious that they were constantly on high alert. However, they would never expect that someone would come in and quietly approach them in a figure of a rock. Chen Xiang was so careless the last time that he was injured by these 3 jointly. He would never allow that to happen again. The spiritual aura is very dense here. I wonder what kind of resources there are in the White Tiger Profound Realm that make the Holy Light sect to agree to the conditions of carefree immortal sea. Now that the matter of the White Tiger Profound Realm is disclosed, let's see how they would handle it. Chen Xiang was secretly delighted. Long Shui just used the God traveling in 9 heavens to look at an island in the distance, where quite a few people had gathered. In order to be more secretive, Chen Xiang turned himself into a smaller rock. It was only the size of a walnut, and it moved very slowly. No one would find him without strong divine sense, but he was still worried. If we get closer, this guy will observe me. Chen Xiang noticed that the middle-aged man suddenly opened his eyes and looked over. Chen Xiang had already experienced the strength of these 3 people. They were indeed very strong, especially the old man in the lead, and their strength was at the top level of profound martial realm. Wait for the whirlpool to open, and there will be quite a few movements. You can move quickly while the tyrannical aura comes in. Long Shui said. When a tyrannical aura surged in, it would create a wave of air current. It would indeed be very convenient for Chen Xiang to conduct his action at that time. However, when the time came, those strong martial artists that were waiting outside would also come. So his time was very limited. He had to get rid of all 3 of them before the whirlpool appeared. Chen Xiang waited for 4 days, until the island suddenly shook violently. Taking this opportunity, Chen Xiang used his magic power to levitate himself and moved towards the middle-aged man. After the island shook, a large circular hole appeared above the center, which meant that the large whirlpool was about to opening and appearing on the surface of the sea. It would devour surrounding spiritual energy and open the gate to the White Tiger profound realm. Now that Chen Xiang had arrived behind the middle-aged martial artist, he was merely an unremarkable stone, and his aura was restrained. That middle-aged man wouldn't even notice him. No one would believe that a person could transform into a small rock if he or she did not know that there were 72 transformation technique, like Chen Xiang did. The middle-aged man opened his eyes to look at the hole above and closed. Chen Xiang quietly turned into a rectangular rock. Suddenly, 2 eyes appeared on the rock. The best way to sneak was to use the heart-penetrating demon eyes to straightly pierce through the enemy's vital parts, especially when the enemy had no guard, that the technique would succeed. Go to HELLUBASTARD. The 2 eyes on the rock suddenly shot out 2 faint red lights, one of which entered the middle-aged man's heart, while the other pierced through the skull, and the red light that entered the skull contained an extremely destructive power that destroyed the consciousness of the middle-aged man. In just a moment, the profound realm martial artist died, but it seems like he still sat there cultivating with his eyes closed. Of course, Chen Xiang needed to eliminate the corpse and traces. However, he was not able to do it now, so he quietly poured a flame into the middle-aged man's body. The flame was very docile and had no temperature under his control, but it could burn the corpse to ash in a second once Chen Xiang operated his thought. After easily succeeding, Chen Xiang moved towards the middle-aged man in the distance. Chen Xiang felt that he could become the king amongst sins, but he needed to keep this ability secret. Several hours passed, and the first wave of tyrannical auras engulfed in the whirlpool surged into the room, causing a gust of wind. Chen Xiang also moved towards the other middle-aged man while the dust and dirt were flying on the ground. Martial artists in the utmost level were precious to every sect, especially if they were young and had potential. These 3 utmost level martial artists must have high statuses in the Holy Light sect, otherwise they would not be sent here, and the Holy Light sect would definitely feel heartbroken if they were killed by Chen Xiang. When Chen Xiang arrived behind the middle-aged martial artist like he did last time, all of his movements were exactly the same as before, and he easily killed the martial artist whose cultivation was higher than his. As another wave of tyrannical aura gushed in, Chen Xiang moved behind the old man. However, he was not sure if he could make it, because the old man from the Holy Light sect was more powerful than the 2 middle-aged men. After he was prepared, Chen Xiang, who had turned into a rock, released 2 rays of red light. That was the heart-penetrating demon eyes. Just as he was about to succeeding, a faint golden light suddenly appeared on the old man's body and blocked out the evil lights released from the demon eyes. The old man turned his head abruptly in an extremely fast speed. He immediately saw the pair of eyes on the rock. He remembered those eyes. They belonged to Chen Xiang. This caused the old man to feel incomparably shocked. Chen Xiang's eyes could actually grow on a rock and sneaked up behind him to ambush. Plus the old man was shocked. He reached out his hand and grabbed it. His hawk-like hand held a very strong true qi, but when he grabbed it, the stone suddenly exploded and Chen Xiang appeared before him. Chapter 475 Heaven Fire. Chapter 475 Heaven Fire. The old man from the Church of Holy Light was completely shocked. He couldn't believe what she had just witnessed. Chen Xiang could actually turn into a rock and then silently approached him. If not for the fact that he had a powerful artifact protecting him, he definitely would have been killed by Chen Xiang just now. When he thought about this, the old man's back immediately felt a chill, because he almost died. He didn't expect Chen Xiang to return so quickly to take revenge, and with such insidious methods at that. Although the old man was shocked, his reaction was extremely quick. He struck out with his powerful palm towards Chen Xiang, which released a sound like thunder, bringing along a burst of violent and tyrannical innate qi as it struck towards Chen Xiang. Shen Xiang immediately dodged, barely dodging the attack. If this kind of palm force suddenly struck him, he would definitely be struck by the powerful innate qi. The old man stomped his foot and flew backwards. He shouted, "Surround him! This time we must kill him!" When he finished speaking, Shen Xiang laughed out loud, and the two dead middle-aged men's bodies suddenly released blazing fire. The old man felt the scorching heat and anxiously looked over, and his face instantly changed. Shen Xiang had actually killed his two comrades a long time ago. "Old man, I will send you down to meet them soon." Shen Xiang raised his hand, a green light suddenly appeared and the green dragon demon-slain broadsword suddenly appeared in his hand. The old man was startled and furious. He grinded his teeth. He could not understand how Shen Xiang came to this place, even though the whirlpool had just appeared. Furthermore, he had quietly come in to kill his two companions. Of course, the thing that shocked the old man the most was Shen Xiang's transformation technique. Thinking of this, he felt a burst of fear, and at the same time, a greedy thought arose in his mind. What he didn't know was that in order to learn this sort of technique, one had to first train in the Tao of the Gods. The old man really wanted to capture Shen Xiang alive and force him to reveal the divine technique that understood change, but he knew that it would work, because Shen Xiang's strength was not weak either, especially the powerful green dragon demon-slain broadsword that he brought out now. "Shen Xiang, there's no benefit in going against Church of Holy Light at all. T. I've already tortured and killed people from your Church of Holy Light before. Moreover, all of you wanted to kill me before. Let me tell you, I will treat this as your sect leader's intent. Not only will I kill you, I will also exact endless vengeance on the Church of Holy Light in the future." Shen Xiang's voice was like the green dragon demon-slain broadsword in his hands, exuding waves after waves of fiendish aura. "You want to kill me? You're still too young." He thought that Shen Xiang would at most be on the same level as him. It wouldn't be so simple if he was wanted to kill him. Shen Xiang responded with his actions. Both of his feet sank into the ground, and cracks immediately appeared in every direction. Right now, he wanted to fuse the cosmic genuine qi and heaven fire together, so that he could release an even more powerful flame. Although he possessed the Qiankuan fire soul, in order to unleash the might of this fire soul, he had to first use an extremely rich cosmic genuine qi. If he could only use a single attribute innate qi, then it would be around the same as his previous flames, and would at most be a little stronger. He possessed the yin and yang God blood, and also cultivated the cosmic genuine qi of the five elements. The fire soul of yin-yang heaven and earth allowed him to possess the heaven fire, so these two things were absolutely compatible with him. Shen Xiang, now that he possessed the heaven fire, his strength had increased by a lot. He was confident that even if he did not rely on the draconic strength, he would still be able to fight with this old man. Draconic strength and long shui both needed to be used at the most critical moment, to give the enemy the most lethal strike. This was the first time Shen Xiang used the power of the cosmic genuine qi to ignite a flame. That kind of flame was very different from the cosmic genuine qi. It was invisible and colorless, but the heaven fire was filled with violence, destruction, and a strange energy. That kind of energy was something even Shen Xiang could not describe. The heaven fire could be released in various forms, so it was not surprising that there were a lot of different types of energy inside. Shen Xiang still had yet to explore the profoundness behind it, as his physique was unprecedented. The old man felt a power suddenly burst out from Shen Xiang's body that was even more violent than his own, and he could not help but take a few steps back. Shen Xiang bellowed, and the fire beneath his feet ignited, forming a huge circle, converging into a set of Taiji yin-yang diagram. The Taiji diagram formed from the flames suddenly started to spin, and within the flames, there were countless pulses of electricity. The old man was dumbstruck. Is this the power of the Taiji dragon suppressed kung fu? That scorching heat made the old man perspire profusely. The tyrannical lightning on the flames were reflected in his eyes, and it made him feel a trace of fear. Is this the heaven fire? Shen Xiang fiercely grabbed the hilt of his blade, causing the thunder and fire primal chaos to gather at the bottom of his feet, converging into his body, and then exploding out from the right side of his body. The green dragon demon-slain broadsword in his right hand were immediately enveloped in a tyrannical lightning and fire energy, as though they were wearing a powerful armor. Looking at Shen Xiang, whose right side was ignited with raging lightning and fire, the old man could be considered to have broadened his horizons, and he was extremely clear on how strong the lightning and fire on Shen Xiang's right side was. Although this sword was also a treasure, it was insignificant in front of Shen Xiang's powerful and domineering blade. Shen Xiang stomped his feet, borrowing the force that erupted from under his feet. He charged towards the old man. Wherever he went, the ground would produce burn marks, as though an angry dragon whose entire body was burning with flames was suddenly flying. In the blink of an eye, Shen Xiang was already in front of the old man who was hiding in the distance. At the same time, he raised his blade and slashed downwards, and an afterimage formed by lightning and fire appeared in the air. The old man was not someone easy to deal with. Although his reaction was a little slow, he was still able to raise the sword in his hand and block the attack. The sword also had an extremely berserk innate chi of lightning surrounding it. Shen Xiang thought that his fearsome blade would be able to break that soft-looking long sword, but who knew that his big blade would not be able to touch the sword blade, but was blocked by an extremely dense lightning innate chi. On top of the green dragon demon-slain broadsword, there was a blazing thunder fire innate chi. The two violent innate chi violently clashed with each other, causing the island to immediately shake, and waves of air rushed in all directions like floodwaters. You're just SOSO. However, right at this moment, the flames on Shen Xiang's body became even more berserk. The flames, which were wildly jumping about, made the island under the sea feel an oppressive scorching heat. The green dragon demon-slain broadsword in his hand was surrounded by red flames. The blade of the green dragon demon-slain broadsword trembled, and a buzzing sound came out. It was like a low and furious dragon's roar. Chapter 476 An Arrogant Provocation. Chapter 476 An Arrogant Provocation. The burning fury of Shen Xiang turned into a tyrannical force that activated all the strength in his body due to the rage. The old man could not allow Shen Xiang's strength to continue growing. As he shook his longsword, a wave of true qi leapt up from the sword. Then the old man made a step forward, just like a ray of light flash, ing through the sky. His speed was extremely fast, and his sword was aimed at Shen Xiang, causing sonic booms to ring out in the air. This strike was extremely fast. Even though Shen Xiang had seen it, he did not conduct any movement. Instead, he stuck out his chest and quickly circulated the thick true qi within his body, forming a powerful black tortoise luotian cover. At this time, the old man remembered that the last time the three of them stabbed at Shen Xiang had a very powerful set of armor on him. He was deeply regretting when he thought of that. However, he was stabbing toward Shen Xiang's chest in a very fast speed, and it was impossible for him to change location. The old man's attack was not only fast, but fierce as well. It penetrated through Shen Xiang's black tortoise luotian cover and pierced right into his heart. However, when the tip of the sword touched Shen Xiang's clothes, it was difficult to enter even half an inch, and the tyrannical true qi dispersing from the tip of sword was annihilated as it entered Shen Xiang's body by his Tai Chi subduing dragon subduing technique. Humph! Shen Xiang let out an angry snort. The fast blade in his hand flew out, dragging a long shadow of the blade as it explosively flashed with lightning fury. The blade was infused with the heaven-earth fire. At this moment, the old man was so close to Shen Xiang and he just conducted a fierce slash. Before he could even react, Shen Xiang's violent blade was already chopping down. He clenched his teeth and punched out with true qi in order to block Qin Xiang's blade. However, Qin Xiang's blade technique was extremely nimble. With a slight turn of the blade, he changed his direction promptly and escaped the incoming fist, while his blade cut down on the old man's shoulder and chopped off one of his arms. The furious dragon strike that Qin Xiang executed was extremely formidable. Moreover, it was a slash that gathered all of his rage power on the blade without leaving the enemy with chance of survival. He chopped down the old man's arm, after which blood on the severed arm bursted out like a fountain, causing the true qi flashed out of the old man's, which hunted a lot. Qin Xiang took advantage of the opportunity to jump up and kick at the old man's dantian, with all the flame of fury. As Qin Xiang kicked at the old man's abdomen, the thick true qi gathered under Qin Xiang's feet immediately exploded with a loud explosion, causing the old man bursting out as he vomited blood. Qin Xiang took back the azure dragon subduing saber and rushed to the old man who was flying backward. He grabbed the old man's wrist with one hand and pulled him back, then knocked away his longsword and quickly changed his palm to strike the old man. However, he could not let the old man die so fast. He wanted to leave the old man's body and let the Holy Light sect see the consequences of going against him. Qin Xiang's fist was covered by the heaven-earth fire, which became even more berserk with the support of the vast true qi. Every time a fist landed on the old man's body, it would explode with a dazzling firelight and a violent lightning strike. As the fist and palm stroked down one by one, waves of terrifying sound were generated and almost made one deaf. The Holy Light sect? I am going to annihilate your cult sooner or later. The old man did not die, but his dantian was already shattered. He was still conscious, but he continued to withstand Qin Xiang's berserk attacks. Waves of pain spread throughout his body, wave after wave, causing him painful that made him wish he were dead, while his heart was filled with fear and despair. Suddenly, many huge auras came. Some of them were very unfamiliar to Qin Xiang and were very strong as well. The strong martial artists who had been waiting there for many days finally came down. A group of people quickly rushed down from the gap. They were all headmasters of the various big sects and numbered over 100. The moment they arrived, it could be felt a scorching force filled with annihilation and anger rust. Hi+ing, and they quickly caught a sight of Qin Xiang's figure. A terrifying flame was burning on the right side of Qin Xiang's body. He was using an extremely violent fist and palm to beat up an old man with a broken arm who was covered in blood. This is the price for trying to kill me. When Qin Xiang felt that group of experts descending, he let out an explosive roar, while a flickering white light suddenly appeared within the flames on his fist, and the land trembled violently. This was the sign of him using the dragon force. Qin Xiang no longer held back. Using all his strength, he filled his fist with dragon force and punched towards the old man's head. After that, a bloody scene appeared in everyone's eyes. The old man's head exploded like a watermelon after being hit by Qin Xiang's berserk punch. Qin Xiang's entire body was filled with killing intent. Flames were blazing, while his methods were brutal. His berserk side caused the Nirvana realm martial artists to feel a slight of fear, because such a man would be extremely terrifying once he became strong. The headmaster of the Holy Light sect, Qin Zijuan, had also come over, while Gu Dongchen was ahead of him and blocked him to protect Qin Xiang. Gu Dongchen, get out of me, I must kill Qin Xiang today. Qin Zijuan's face warped. His eyes were filled with killing intent as he glared at Qin Xiang. Other powerful headmasters like W.A.N. Ji Quan and Xiao Ziliang were all watching with interest. They were enraged by Qin Xiang before but were unable to make a move. Most of Nirvana realm martial artists were all astonished since it was Qin Xiang who made all of those matters and even came ahead of them. As Qin Xiang saw Gu Dongchen arriving, the flames of anger on his body were still burning. He kicked the old man's body under his feet up and kicked the mud-like old body towards Qin Zijuan, so that the blood corpse could dirty Qin Zijuan's golden robe. Everyone could not help but frown and exclaim in their minds as they saw such a scene. Arrogant! Chen Xiang was just a young man, and his strength was merely as the extreme realm, but he was so arrogant to provoke the domineering Qin Zijuan of the East Sea. This was simply a suicidal action. Chen Xiang's body trembled slightly. The intense killing intent dispersed from his body immediately rushed to the bottom of the seabed island, which made Lu Menjie to tighten her frown. Chen Xiang was blatantly provoking Qin Zijuan and did not consider him significantly at all. Qin Zijuan's entire body was trembling. The veins on his fists and face were incomparably ferocious. The muscles on his face twitched crazily as he looked at Chen Xiang with incomparable rage. Gu Dongchen cursed Chen Xiang in his heart. Chen Xiang continued to provoke Qin Zijuan, and everyone would know clearly that Chen Xiang was not afraid because of his presence. I came here 2 months ago. However, I was severely injured by the 3 guys lying in ambush and was almost killed by them. After I escaped, I spread the news of this profound realm out and waiting for taking the revenge after I recovered from my injuries. Chen Xiang coldly said. This message was spread out by Chen Xiang, which triggered the rage of Xiang Ziliang. He had already thought of this long ago, but the other headmasters all thanked Chen Xiang one after another. The news of them rising prosperously from the carefree immortal sea in such a short period of time indicated that there must be plenty of resources in the profound realm, while this profound realm was not completely under the control of the carefree immortal sea, so it could not take possession of it entirely, and everyone had the right to enter the realm. As Xiao Ziliang and Qin Zijuan thought that the profound realm was going to be divided among more than 100 forces, they were furious. As the angry Xiao Ziliang walked behind Qin Zijuan, everyone knew that he had already teamed up with the Holy Light sect.